God have mercy on our souls. Welcome, everyone, to another show on the Red Spotlight Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, and I'm joined by Mr. Peter Martinez. And for the first time in 2020, Mr. Kyle Lira is back, and this is the first time the three of us have been on a show together in quite some time. It's been a long time. Kyle and Peter, how are you guys doing today?
I'm alive.
As usual. I mean, God, it's going to be the same thing every year. Until it's not.
I'm also alive. I can't wait to talk about cats with you guys.
Yeah. No. Let me get the intro. Let me get the intro. Then you can do whatever bullshit you guys are going to do. Today is the Top 10 show. This is the Top 10 show that we've been doing, that we have been teasing for quite some time. It is the annual belated Top 10 show where we come together and we basically reveal what our favorite movies of the previous year was, because we always have to go at least a month into the next year before we even talk about what happened last year.
But I think this is the earliest we've gone, though.
Yeah, just about. Or at least it's on par with 2017's show. 2018 broke a record, shall we say, as far as how...
late in the game it was.
It really was. It was halfway through the year.
It sucks we had to wait for Alexis.
Yeah, it sucks that way. Fuck off, you piece of shit. I'm not playing today. I'm telling you that right now, you fucker. Like, you were the one that dragged that show all the way until fucking April, okay? So don't you fucking start pointing fingers in any which direction. Just because I saved it for an apt time does not mean that it is my fault. Come on here.
Let's not
get there, okay? We're not starting off in that direction already. So we're already getting off, and it's explosive, and it's great because that's part of the show, okay? So, top 10 movies. Honorable mentions. As you can expect, all three of us are going to probably have an hour. Get comfortable. Get some popcorn out. If you think I'm pissed right now at Peter, just wait till hour 3. Mr. Lira
just wait till
has
graciously comes up.
Mr. Lira has graciously agreed to be the first person to go first. But real quick, though, before we get into it, just to talk, like, I don't know, a minute or two quickly about this. Did you guys find this year in particular to be harder than other years to make a list?
Well, the thing about this year, really, in terms of like film and where it went, I really like it because, like, yeah, we did have like the blockbusters and all that stuff this year, but there was an embarrassment of riches in terms of like original content this year that I think is crazy that we haven't had in quite some time. And I think that it's honestly refreshing. We did a double feature of like original, and it was right here in our very backyard. You know, we didn't have to travel 2 hours to see these movies. So I really liked the turnout of films that came out this year, and I honestly think that it's good. It's really good. I think it's like 2017 all over again. It just skipped a year, in terms of like quality.
Hop on there. Me and Alexis have had this conversation before, and I've said exactly that. It feels like since we've been discussing films more in depth, that it's like on 1 year, off another, on 1 year, off another. Not to say that there aren't amazing films every year, but it just feels like 2017, there was just so many amazing films that I really, really loved. That when I came to do my top 10, I was like, fuck, like, there's so many good ones. I feel I don't know what to pick because I'm going to leave some off. Last year,
2018. We're in 2020.
Yeah, we're in 2020. Oh yeah, 2018. I had trouble with my top 10 list because once I hit like the top 5, I was like, what really deserves to be there? It was a little bit more difficult. 2019 though, this year, it feels like 2017 again. Like a lot of amazing films, and I had to make some very tough decisions once it got to 8, 9, 10. Very tough ones. But
yeah.
So yeah, to me, 2019 really awesome year.
One of the things to hop on that as well is, and I think this is a common thing because I've also spoke with this to Kyle, is especially as we got closer and closer to this day, a lot of swapping happened in terms of what films we wanted in and what films we wanted out. And I know that I spoke with Kyle about how each of us were having internal debates amongst our inner psyches about, well, would the list be better served with this movie? And we got real inside baseball about like what list was right, and I think that speaks to the level of quality that we've gotten so far. I think we didn't do this for the year of 2014. I love that year. This has been my favorite year in movies since 2014, easily. And I'm talking about the movies that I really loved. I really, really loved. And it made it so much harder because I can just look at my top 15 and any other year, the ones that are not in the top 10 would have definitely been top 10. Especially last year, because last year kind of sucked, at least for most of the year, shall we say. So, yeah, I think that's good. And without any further ado, this is Red Spotlight number 215, the top 10 of 2019. That was a mouthful. Kyle Lira.
That's what she said.
Exactly. Go ahead and kick us off.
So is there any rules or anything like that whatsoever in the
There is
in the
one
list?
rule. Alexis, go ahead and say said one rule. We're instituting rules now to this. Alexis,
There
take
are?
it away. Yes.
Well,
You know what the rule is.
I don't know what. Okay, like there's this thing going on behind the scenes about the movie Cats. Peter had said a few weeks ago that the movie was disqualified from consideration from anybody's top 10 list. I don't recall.
And I don't care.
I don't recall having a vote on that unless you want to take this live podcast.
We did have a vote, and you said aye.
It was a caucus, so that actually means that Kyle won.
That's right. It was a caucus.
Which means the most votes lose. So I guess
that's right.
Kyle beat us there in that area. So, kidding aside.
Welcome to 2020 politics.
Yeah, well, the sad part is that they've been with us the entirety of our country, which sucks. Yeah, so that wasn't serious. At least I didn't consider it to be so. I mean, if you love the movie that much, I mean, we'll get into it. But Kyle, by all means,
Okay.
Honorable mentions or not, or whatever, just go.
Okay. I am gonna go and address some movies that I really enjoyed that did not make it. Again, this the way I approach this is that I didn't, well, like all the other years, I didn't seek out what was the best. I seeked out which ones personally touched me artistically, and I loved, I had solid thoughts on the top 10 that I have. Movies, unfortunately, like Parasite and Midsummer, they would be in my honorable mentions, but I want to dedicate the bulk of the top 10 to these certain films that I liked, or loved. I really loved. Because again, we were discussing this earlier that we have an embarrassment of riches in terms of like films and all that stuff, that it was really hard to pick some of them, but alas, these 10 movies touched me more personally than some other movies that would be on other people's top 10 lists. And that because I've seen like the bulk of everybody's like discussions on like top 10 lists and whatever, movies with Mikey did his and everything like that, and I saw like everybody who's like on par with everybody. Okay, so the bulk of my conversation is number 10. With number 10, you really have to time travel with this one, because you pretty much get artists and filmmakers, pretty much a version of them from their heyday, and I would have to say that The Irishman makes my number 10, because the way The Irishman plays out, I mean, I said it before, you might as well pluck out Pesci in his prime. You might as well pluck out De Niro in his prime. Fucking the way that Martin Scorsese went about going about telling this story of this very I wouldn't say leader, and usually De Niro is put in the leader positions in these kind of movies, but no, he's actually the lackey in this movie, and I find that really fascinating that that was not his role, you know. I loved this movie in the way that it felt like a good throwback to the old sensibilities of the way Scorsese would make his films. I think this Scorsese swept it away with this year. I thought, and I liked how it subverted my expectations.
That's a trigger word to a bunch of right-wing trolls out there right now.
Yeah, you should have said a trigger warning before.
Trigger. Okay, trigger. I liked how it because in the beginning, little minor spoilers a little bit. I thought that he was telling the story to his daughter.
Oh, really?
Thing. I thought that this whole thing, like, because throughout the whole entire thing, the interesting dynamic between it was a very little, like, it was probably like F plot, but it was an interesting F plot enough to like stick out. And I thought that it was like because he was trying to make amends with his daughter and like explain his side of the story before he went, because obviously everybody was dying, you know, everybody was like, you know, being, you know, because they're old and they're getting into their whole bits and whatever. And I thought that the whole entire thing was just him trying to make amends with his daughter and like say, hey, this is the way I did it, I'm not proud of it, if you forgive me, that's fine, if you don't, you know. And I thought that that's but it subverted my expectations in a way that he winds up alone. And it's very much like how in The Godfather, Michael Corleone winds up alone. Just like a lifetime of wickedness leads you to this path, you know. And I find that really interesting, and it toyed with all that stuff, and it is what it is, you know. And it's a really fascinating film that I think that that warrants. I wish I would have seen it in the big screen, because this is like a big screen kind of deal, you know. It's Scorsese, it's Pacino, which, by the way, some of the best acting for Pacino I've seen in years, you know.
All of them.
But it was a miniseries.
Pesci, jokes. Pesci, very reserved. I was like, I heard whispers that this isn't the Pesci that you knew of him, and I was like, okay, but I didn't know it would be like this far. And Pesci, you know, he didn't raise his voice once. He was very like, hey, I'm Joe Pesci, you know. And I was like, wow, holy shit, the guy could like keep it buckled down. And I was surprised, and that shows a lot of restraints from like something that, you know, he's really known for, in restraining himself to that kind of level, and that takes a lot of like skill. Of course, all the dialogue is really witty. I mean, we've always referenced it and all that stuff. Yes, Alexis, you have a question. You're raising your hand.
I just wanted to say real quick, not to derail this, but
you just did.
A lot of movies are going to appear again and again on some of our lists. So if we don't chime in on Irishman, well, it's because I guarantee you it's going to come up again. So just so people are aware of that. Yeah.
And I expect that. And The Irishman, I think that, you know, it's an auteur film. It's an auteur film to the highest regard, and just give me a good mob Scorsese film, I'm there, you know. And I absolutely loved it.
Apparently it wasn't as good as Casino. You asked some Oscar voters, but it wasn't fun like Casino.
You know what's worse? If things go according to how they might, in Kyle's eyes, it's not better than Cats.
Kyle, please continue with your list. I'm not going to comment on that.
Another thing of note is that I think that this is a very like thematically different thing from his mob films. Also, is that you're dealing with, instead of like the price of your crimes, you're dealing with the price of mortality, and I like that a little bit. Number 9.
Oh God, Peter, why did you do this to me?
Nobody went to go see this movie.
Oh, okay.
nobody went to go see this movie, and it boggles the mind. But I've been wanting this movie for a long time. I got it, and I think that this is an interesting way to go. I've been a fans of these creatures for quite some time. And
Toy Story 4.
Say, no.
Oh.
And I'm gonna say, I know it won't be on probably your guys' lists. Maybe Peter's. I don't know. But I have to say, Godzilla King of the Monsters reaches my number 9.
I knew he was gonna fucking do that. He does that every.
He does it every time, and he thinks he's fucking slick every time.
Okay,
Yeah.
This is a good one though. Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, Godzilla King of the Monsters. This is the movie I wanted in 2014, but didn't get.
Damn, people hate that movie. Like, they really hate that movie. Fucking poor Gareth Edwards can't catch a break. I'm sorry.
He directed the best Star Wars film. What are you talking about?
Diego Luna's spin-off series. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, Godzilla King of the Monsters. I love myself some good kaiju action, and I wanted an Americanized version of this that wasn't Roland Emmerich.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see where Americans could spin this classic Japanese tale. And lo and behold, we got Godzilla King of the Monsters. And my God, this number one, I love the way that they brought Akira Fukube. I think that's his name. I love the way that they brought in that score. It's just blast that score in a big freaking movie theater. You got me going, and it got my blood boiling. I watched the movie. It was a double feature that I did by myself. I treated myself that day because I was in a mood.
Aren't we all?
And this movie got me going, and I was like, I had to call Peter after I saw this movie.
That's true.
Because I was like, oh shit, like fucking shit. I saw, this movie, and it was absolutely phenomenal.
If I'm not mistaken, you were so enamored with this and the other movie, you went ahead and did a podcast without realizing Peter and I already talked about those movies beforehand because you don't listen to the show. I just wanted to say that. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't listen to the show. Look at me. I'm Alexis.
Wait, did Randy Newman join the discussion? What happened?
I can't let you.
Joe yourself.
By the way, that was a terrific performance, albeit very confusing in the Oscars.
Terrific.
Anyway,
Peter said he was falling apart.
That's what made it terrific.
Pretty ageist
but anyway,
of him. Okay.
But anyway, I think Godzilla King of the Monsters. I mean, okay. The plot is very B movie plot, we gotta let the monsters do their thing, gotta let them fight, and
but that's the point, right? Godzilla is nothing but a B movie,
and they did it in such a great way, and the sound design of the movie, like I felt like when he went into full Atomic Godzilla mode, I could feel like it rattle in my seat, and I was all for it. It was great.
You're actually just in a 4DX showing.
Yeah,
they didn't tell you.
Oh no, it wasn't that. But I loved the graphics is massively improved from what happened in 2014. Charles Dance was very Charles Dancey, and I relished it. Vera Farmiga, I really liked her performance. She was a really good underrated character from the conversation of 2019 of film. I liked the sincerity and nuance that she brought to all that stuff. Oh, by the way, Mothra, never has she looked more gorgeous than in this movie. Like the way that it was shot, the way the some of the shots with the King Ghidorah and Godzilla just falling from the clouds, just fighting and duking it out, just made it so. It felt like I finally know what watching the Super Bowl is to sports fans. I was like, all for it, and I loved it. I kept the tallies. I wanted some beer and wings to throw in so the festivities. It was great. I loved it. I haven't had an experience like that in quite some time in Godzilla King of the Monsters. I was over ecstatic.
Just to jump in real quick, are you, because I want to talk a little bit about.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I agree with you. I think this film is a love letter to the Showa era. It's that 1960s, early 70s version of Godzilla where it's the silly, fun, heroic Godzilla, where it's literally all about the, building, having all these giant sets, and then silly, goofy Godzilla comes in and destroys it while fighting these other monsters, these people in silly costumes. Like, it's all about the fun nature of that. And this was a very Hollywood blockbuster realization of that kind of film for Godzilla. They did a fantastic job, I agree with you, of just giving each monster their own personality. They don't all feel like the same faceless monster. All the monsters feel very personal. All the things that they can do feel very personal. They are the real characters of these films, and I think they shine through. It's beautifully, it looks beautiful. There's a lot of really great shots. The action is a lot of fun. It really is the ultimate fun Godzilla movie. I agree. I think it's I loved it as well.
And also, I never knew I needed a Serge Tankian cover of the song Godzilla.
Ooh.
I loved it.
Oh yeah, it's so. Oh, right when it hits the credits. Ooh, Godzilla. Yeah.
Go Godzilla. History shows. It's great. It's great. I loved it. Anyway, number 8. I mentioned in number 10 that I loved myself an auteur piece. And boy, this is an auteur piece. Feet and all.
Oh, no.
Once Upon a Time.
He is talking about cats.
Oh, no. It's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Okay.
Okay. So, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. First of all, I never been more like, what the fuck is going on? What am I watching for a third act since probably Rogue in quite some time.
You mean the third act of the third act? Because technically speaking, it's like the very end of the third act, not the whole third act. It's
but like the way it plays out, it feels like the third act. It's absolutely batshit insane, but also I love what Quentin Tarantino did to rewrite tragedy, and I very much like that, and I like how everybody missed that point of the conversation of this movie. It isn't about like, oh, Sharon Tate, that she was supposed to die, and from the Manson family. No, they instead it celebrated her life. It was Sharon Tate. She went to the theater. She went to go see one of her pictures. She was relishing in the fact that she was in one of her pictures. And at the end, Leonardo DiCaprio and Margot Robbie have a kickback, a couple of drinks. I like one of my favorite quotes from the movie. The way that Brad Pitt just says it is, and away we go. And me and my sister Sophia, we always laugh about that, and we always have fun riffing on this movie. It's great. I think Leo DiCaprio did a phenomenal job, probably one of the best acting showcases of the year. The way that he did play Rick Dalton, and I think that his character, like the way that he was with Julia Butters, his character, like the way that he was like saying, oh, you're the best, actor, that was some of the best acting you've ever seen, and him being completely proud of that fact of a man who was completely run down. It is great. It was great. I want to see those episodes of Bounty Law put on Netflix. I would watch that show. I loved myself a little good old. I mean, it's pretty much everything that you've seen so far in Quentin Tarantino, you see in this one right here. It's like an accumulation of his career. It's very much like I keep on referencing this movie, but it's a good example. It's kind of like the Mary Poppins of Quentin Tarantino's career, because with Mary Poppins you see an accumulation of like all the tactics, all the story beats, and all that stuff that has been used in Disney films in the past, and all the techniques, and he just applied it in here. And I think that this is a good greatest hits of Tarantino. And if you like greatest hits albums, I think that this is a good way to go about that. And what else? The way it's shot, I think it's really nice. The soundtrack, I think it's really killer. I like the way it started, like a old school kind of talkie theater documentary. I really like that. It just like there's a bunch of things that added up that I really found that I was fond of. I like everything that surrounded it and all that stuff. So yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is an amazing film for, and I saw and I know it's not, but if this is Quentin's last film, I wouldn't mind, because like this is a great way to end it off with. Okay, my number 7. I have a question for you guys.
Oh no.
Why did you spill your beans?
Oh, I've heard of this film.
Oh my god.
Really?
This movie...
Really? Some people have good taste, Alexis.
Unlike some, I stomached this movie really well. I found this
That
movie...
was a pot shot right there. What do you mean you stomached it really well? Oh, come on.
Because
Shut up.
Because it is a delicious film. It's intriguing. I don't think
delicious as it's being crapped out the digestive system. Is that what you mean, right? Like okay.
No.
It's like a beautiful lobster dinner.
It is a beautiful lobster dinner. Well, what do we have here? We have
Get
Robert
the fuck out of here.
We have Robert Pattinson acting his ass off. We have William Dafoe just being William Dafoe, and it's just amazing. The never undermine a man's cooking. You come to find out with
now
this movie.
I know what MSNBC felt like when they saw Bernie winning.
He has a vendetta against this film, Kyle. I don't know what it is.
Fuck you.
I don't know what it is again. Yeah.
This feels like.
Also, it's a bold move to the way that Robert Eggers filmed this movie.
I agree 100%.
This feels like the fall of France to Nazi Germany back in 1940.
Holy shit. Okay.
Just throwing it out there.
Wow, so dour. I don't know why. You are not the jellicle choice.
That's
and just imagine,
damn
and yet
sure.
that movie's higher.
Well, we'll see.
So I like The Lighthouse. It's very interesting. I wish I was on this episode, but I'm very trepidatious because of
you were invited. You were invited, and you chose to take a nap. What are you talking about?
It was Mimi time. Come on.
No, it was not. It was not Mimi time because if it was just The Lighthouse and The Lighthouse alone, I would have joined. But I'm trepidatious about another film that it just so happens to also be on my list.
Oh, okay.
Wait, oops.
Oh, okay.
Oops.
Okay.
So I think that The Lighthouse is really fascinating. I mean, Robert Eggers, I think, in the way that his career is shaping out, I'm gonna make a bold statement. I think he's gonna be this generation's John Carpenter, because of like the choices that he makes and everything like that. It's just I love The Witch, so I was like, this better like live up to that in terms of like his follow-up picture, and it did that and more. You see homoeroticism and men just being men and turpentine and honey drinking things, and it's just like these two men. It is very simple in its premise, but the way that it plays out and the slow burn. Ooh, that slow burn is good. Also, like the metaphor and the way that the last 3 minutes of the movie play out is still ingrained in my mind. Just him looking dead into the what we think is a lamp from the lighthouse, and the way that he's looking dead on it, and it's like this, the distortion and the screaming, and it's very unsettling, and the whole seagulls mythos that goes on around with everything like that. I wanted to know what you thought. So is William Dafoe's character that seagull that's eating his guts out at the end?
I didn't think that.
Oh,
I've never heard that one before.
Oh, I read it as that.
Oh,
I read
really?
It as that.
Okay.
Well, art is open to interpretation.
Yeah, that's why I'm interested. I had not even crossed my mind.
It
I
could be.
thought because obviously, Robert Pattinson. Spoilers for The Lighthouse, by the way.
No one saw it.
They will now.
Unlike another movie that's on my list.
Yep.
I read it as that because he was like saying, oh, seagulls are just fallen sailors and all that stuff, and William Dafoe and the way that he was like, he was killed and all that stuff. So I read it as that, and that's my personal headcanon, that the guy eating his guts out at the end is a good old, and also quite the curse. That monologue is awesome. Such a great way of like, and also sea shanties. We need to bring back sea shanties.
Yeah,
there
that's
aren't
true.
Enough of them. I need more of them. So yeah. My number 6. This is a pure comedy with a lot of heart. And I like the way that it did this movie. And I think that as a debut, a directorial debut from this person, I think that Olivia Wilde did great with Booksmart. I loved Booksmart. I think that it is Booksmart. The dynamic between these two characters trying to catch up with forgotten times is such a fascinating thing, with these two seniors in high school trying to catch up with all the fun that they missed out on, because they were book smart. They were trying to keep it to the books, but then finding out that the other students who they thought was stupid and dumb got into really good schools and everything like that. And I like this kind of pure existential dread that these characters go on. And I think that with that being said, it leads up to some great comedy. Jason Sudeikis, that whole bit in the Uber car, hilarious. I like the stop motion bit towards the middle. Billie Lourd's character is a riot. I loved her character. She was bombastic. She was insane. You didn't know what she was gonna do. She could turn one way and turn the other.
This film had you at Billie Lourd.
Partially, yeah. But also I wanted to see what Olivia Wilde did, and she did really well. It's a great story. I think it's timeless. I think it could resonate with a lot of people who have lived, especially because us three, we were teenagers not too long ago. And I think that it does resonate with that storytelling, and like trying to with the whole essence of fitting in and everything else that goes along with it. I think that really makes it worthwhile and worth watching. And I think that being said, Booksmart is a great number 6.
It's wonderful. The only thing about the film that already hasn't aged well is in the beginning of it, there is a Warren 2020
God,
bumper,
I knew
bumper
you were
sticker.
gonna bring this shit up.
So I'll just tell you right now, it's kind of been a little bit, aged in a horrible way, considering that means nothing nowadays.
Have you ever seen the well, we don't know, contested convention. Have you ever seen the and I know you haven't, the Eddie Murphy film Pluto Nash? in that film, it's supposed to be a comedy set in the future. Like he's on the moon and stuff in a casino on the moon. And when like they have a briefcase full of money, and when they open the money and look at the money, it's Hillary Clinton on the dollar bills.
Let me ask you this, Peter.
Thousands or something
Right.
like that.
Let me ask you this question. So you said that you knew I would bring this up.
Yeah.
How? Because I'm sure that stood out to you too when you saw that movie.
Yeah,
Like,
but
oh.
I'm not as crazy as you, so it's just like, oh, that's obviously that's her character. That's a great quirk.
Yeah. It made me
Yeah.
like her less. I'll just say that.
Oh, come on. You
No,
we're not gonna go down
are
this road.
are we gonna have this here?
We're not
I
gonna
mean,
have this here. Go on, Kyle.
Okay, book smart. Also the end. I love the way that it ended. You want to go out for some pancakes? Fuck yeah! And it just ends. Great way to end a movie.
You know what? I ended up liking this film a lot more than I thought I would. Like
Really?
Yeah. When I saw it, I was like, oh, a high school movie, okay. Oh, Olivia Wilde's directing it. Another actor that wants to be a director, and they just sort of, it's a little like they don't really work for it. It's just like, oh, I'm a famous actor, so I can just be a director now. But no, I thought it was directed really well. I thought Olivia Wilde did a good job. I thought the lead actresses were funny. I thought they were great. I want to see them in more things.
Caitlin Dever and Beanie Feldstein. Either one of those.
It's like
you know how
Feldstein,
I
I
am with
think.
names. But they were great. It was funny. I really liked the script. It was really, really funny. It plays, of course, with the conventional teen high school tropes, but it does it in a really fun and updated way. Like, yeah, actually, I really enjoyed this film more than I thought I would.
Also,
go ahead.
Also, it brought up like modern day conventions as well that like did it really smart. Like it could have easily gone one way or another, and I'm glad that it went smart with it. I like there was a moment where Caitlin Dever's character gets completely heartbroken, and how like it's not the journey and the thing that you do, it's the people, whatever philosophical thing that you want to go with. But I like how the key core relationship that they have and like what turns her around is the journey that she took with her friend, and I like that, and the bond between the two characters I find really, really touching. And the way that they are portrayed, it's genuine. I feel that they're geeks, they're nerdy, but they work, and they're quirky in the utmost cool way, and I think that is that's wonderful. On to my number 5. We're down to the top 5. I love myself a good musical.
Toy Story 4.
That's not a musical.
Oh. I can't let you throw yourself away.
That's only one song.
Okay.
I love myself a good musical, and I think that this musical, it flipped everything on its head, and I don't think anything. I have to say it's an experience worthwhile and worth watching. And lyrics by Elton John is not that bad. With Rocket Man is my number 5. Okay, I'm a sucker for a biopic. I'm a sucker, especially towards an artist that I particularly love.
I'm surprised it's this low, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Rocket Man, you see the storytelling of like this. You could easily portray Elton John as like some sort of savior figure, like all the other biopics do. Every time I think of biopic, thanks to you, Peter, all I could think is Dewey Cox and Walk Hard.
That's a fantastic film. Yeah.
Fucking shit. Walk hard.
What? Walk hard. Hard.
But I think that this is particularly interesting because they take the biopic trope and they flip it on its head, and they tell a completely different story while having somewhat of the same backbone, but they do something else with it that I think is really unique. How like all the songs are pretty much his inner monologue. I really like that. It's filmed like a musical that I really like, and it is very much in the tone of what Elton John would be, this big bombastic character with huge tragic flaws of like pushing people away and like being toxic and being a complete douchebag to his good buddy Bernie Taupin, you know, who was there and just couldn't take his toxicity anymore, and just like completely washing his hand from that. I like that. And Taron Egerton, I think he is Elton John, you know. It's the same way I felt about when I watched The Runaways with Kristen Stewart's performance as Joan Jett. I was worried because I really love Joan Jett's performance. I really love Joan Jett. And I was like, oh God, I hope that, you know, she isn't just Bella Swan and all that stuff. But no, she became Joan Jett. And that's the same thing with Taron Egerton. And honestly, honest to God, I think he was robbed. I think instead of Joaquin, I think it should have went to Taron this year. If Rami Malek got the Oscar nomination for this for his role as a lip syncing version or a TikTok version of Freddie Mercury. God, this is such a huge disservice to what Taron Egerton brought to the table in terms of playing such a, you know, legendary figure such as Elton John. I like the fact that he actually sang. I love the fact that all the artists in the movies actually sang their parts. I like the moment. One of my favorite moments in the movie that I could point to is the Crocodile Rock scene, where he literally becomes the Rocket Man and takes off, and you see him in flight, you know. And I love that visual imagery and the visual storytelling that goes along with it.
I will say, I really like that the biopic, because biopics, like talking about Dewey Cox, man, do they get stale after. It's the same story, same journey. I like that there was an attempt to tell it in an interesting way. And like you said, in a way that doesn't hold back as far as the faults of the character.
The way that they performed Freddie Mercury's character in Bohemian Rhapsody, and I know I keep on going, but it's the same. It's kind of cut from the same cloth.
Mm-hmm.
The same director worked on it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's basically directed by the same person.
But the way that they performed, you know, because Freddie Mercury, he was also toxic as well, really toxic, and they didn't really portray him in that light. It was very sanitized, and I like how it wasn't sanitized in this. You know, I like how they let this movie's freak flag fly, you know, and I like that, and I was really worried that they were going to go that route. You know, but then I was watching it, and also this is a great appetizer for Godzilla King of the Monsters, because I double featured these two movies, and I loved it. I loved Rocket Man. I loved the way that it was told. I want to see what more biopics do in this kind of way, because this is really interesting. A flat out
and not
musical.
just in character. I just want to say quickly, because I agree with Peter about the attempt made to make this a different journey for the character, but I love the attempt by Dexter Fletcher in particular, and certainly you can consider the fact that Elton John was very much involved in this as a factor, but the fact that how it was, you know, advertised as a musical fantasy. They leaned into the musicality, the musical elements of what you would find in a musical into this biopic, where it really is a musical biopic rather than just seeing scenes of the guys just sing the songs in a concert or anything. You know, there were dance sequences, costumes, all that crap.
They didn't drive by NASA and go, Rocket Man. Rocket. You know, there was nothing like that.
But it's also, I love the fact that he's like fighting with his past too.
Yeah,
the echoes of his past is constantly haunting him.
You really got to give Elton John, the man, credit. because someone of his age who's been a star the vast majority of his life, like usually you at that point you get massive egos and you're like, no, you want to portray yourself as this amazing heroic person, and for him to go like, no, like if I'm gonna tell the story of my life, I'm gonna be real about it. Like I respect that a lot.
Like Queen did.
Like Queen. Oh, okay.
The polar opposite of what Elton did with what he allowed this film to be is what this Frank Sinatra movie can never get made.
Yeah. Oh God.
I wanted that movie so bad because I love Frank Sinatra and I love his.
Or that Sacha Baron Cohen
was supposed to be Freddie Mercury
movie. Yeah.
And they were supposed to like kill him off in the middle of the movie, and just like the rest of them is so, I don't know. It was
and one of the
jumbled
funniest
mess.
things that Peter has said, and there's a long list of that to be fair, but it's like it's funny how these like cutting edge rock stars are so like uptight about their personal lives.
Yeah,
like
these motherfuckers that were always like, oh yeah, fuck everything, rock and roll. They've grown up to be like as boomer as any like as anyone else, as far as like they're like how uptight they are in their politics and like the way that they view like, oh no, you can't show that we did drugs and we did, you know, we fought sometimes and we did bad things. And it's like, why? Like that's part of your story, that's part of who you are. Like I you know, okay, you don't like it, but don't run away from it. I mean,
yeah.
And if you really just don't want to air that side, don't make a movie.
Make a movie.
Yeah, don't make a movie about your life then, because that's a big part of your life if you're a rock star.
Oh, huge. It is detrimental to like the way you are and everything like that. And I think that this movie really shaped that. And honestly, yeah. This movie rocks. It rockets, man. That was horrible. But anyway, I really loved Rocket.
Oh wait, I can't let this pass. Shame on these idiots. Look, the Rocket Man had a performance by Taron Egerton, who not only was the performance, but also gave it his all with the singing. Not only did he convincingly appear as Elton John, he very much sounded like a young Elton John here. And it is so textbook of those assholes how, and I think I was reading an article about this, how embarrassing it was that Rami Malek won Best Actor for that. And then especially when you, in the next year, have the same performance, but really Oscar-worthy, and it gets no attention. So, just wanted to say that, and I'm sure Elton is pissed about that as well.
Also, the way that they felt. Okay, I think that it's a better technical feat what they did at the end when they recreated "I'm Still Standing." They filmed it in the actual locations, but they superimposed. They did some sort of superimposing with the music video to where like you could replace Taron, but they actually went on site to film all these things. And the original performers from the music video were technically there from the superimposing, which I found really nice on a level, and trying to get all that like gyroscoped and everything like that is way more impressive than trying to recreate Live Aid, you know, with freaking green screens and CG people and all that stuff. Find that more impressive. But anyway, number 4. There are movies where I think
Toy Story 4.
No.
Oh.
There are movies where I think there is no way to put a closure on such a magnum opus of a franchise, you know, warts and all. And I think that this movie really does it really well. And Avengers Endgame is my number 4. Avengers Endgame, I mean, we talked about it in gross amounts.
You've just went over Alexis Soto here.
Okay. So Avengers Endgame, I think we went in gross detail with this movie on the podcast and everything like
And the
that.
audio commentary.
Audio commentary.
Well, first of all, that commentary was trash. I mean the trilogy though. We did a trilogy of podcasts.
Audio commentary was great and fantastic. I loved it.
I hated
had a good
it.
time.
I had a terrible time.
Okay. But I think that this is really good, and I talked about it before, and I love that because this whole series, I'm going to talk about a specific character with this one. I've had my troubles in the past with one character named Steve Rogers.
Oh God.
I think it boils down to because you really got me guys in a sort of identity crisis when asking me why don't you like Steve Rogers when we're doing those audio commentaries for all the MCU movies. I think it's because
it was just a question. You're telling me that brought you down with just one question?
Fuck yeah, it did, because I started questioning myself. Don't ever let. Yeah, I started questioning myself. I think it's because I could never be a Steve Rogers. I can never do that. I think it's possibly possible envy from that standpoint. But this Boy Scout, this utter Boy Scout, down on his luck, picking up that shield and against all odds was gonna go do it no matter if he won or lost or not. I think it was incredible what that moment signified for Steve Rogers, and it made me respect him like I never did in the previous movies. And I think kudos to the writers. As Alexis will insert the writers' names right here. Chris Marcus is Stephen McFeely. Is that the names?
Oh yes, damn right they are.
Okay, all right.
Those
good.
gods.
Good.
Gods.
Okay. Wow.
Oh my
Holy
God.
shit.
Oh,
Wow.
Some of the
boy.
best screenwriters in the business today.
I don't know.
Okay.
Bar none. Bar none.
Watch out, Alexis.
Peter gets no say. Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
But I absolutely adored it. The tribute that they did with Tony Stark, I absolutely loved. A man who was honestly just talked down to, no one believed him, and the end game is finally here, and he finally not only saved the world but also the universe. And I think that was the ultimate hero move. And I think that with the final line that he sweeps in with, "I am Iron Man," it with that moment right then and there, it wraps up this beautiful movie series to a close. And I don't think any other movie is gonna come out after Marvel. After that, there is definitely no movie being made after this movie under the MCU banner. This is it. This is the final movie. Yep, that's it.
Not Spider-Man Far From Home?
Or Guardians 3. I have a question, Kyle. And this is a general question because I, for the record, right? Where did you wait? Did you have? Is this the first Russo or Marvel movie you have on your top 10 list of the year? From the years back, think back to 2018 and 2016. I'm asking basically if Civil War or Infinity War were those movies in your top 10 for those years. Do you recall?
Maybe. I think Infinity War.
Okay.
I think
Do
Infinity.
you recall it being lower or higher than Endgame?
I don't know. I don't know. It was somewhere between 3 and 7.
Would you like
Okay.
to ask me, Alexis?
Peter, bless your heart.
No, I'm going to ask you. You know what? I'm going to take the liberty and asking you.
Thank
Peter.
you, Mr. Kyle. Yes.
It was nowhere to be found. That was the answer. It's curious because I know, Kyle, you particularly don't care for the Russo brothers.
I never said I don't. I never said I don't.
You
care
didn't
for the
have
Russo
to. You
brothers.
didn't have to. The same way you didn't have to say you didn't care for Captain America. Believe me, it came across all these years very obviously that you did not care for Captain America. And I have to say to you, you have to understand, Peter and I were not trying to spun off an identity crisis. It was just a question. It's like, you seem to have some kind of hostility toward him, and you couldn't answer that question from those audio commentaries or the Captain America movies. That was so weird and funny.
Anger, but no reason for it. Typical Bernie, bro.
But yeah, Avengers Endgame. God damn. I could go on forever, but this podcast can't go on forever, unlike some. Number 3. This movie is a movie that I think needs to be told today, and I think that for those who didn't get it, it completely went over their heads.
Leaving Neverland.
Cats.
And that is
the story needs to be told about how to treat a cat and how cats are in fact not dogs.
No, it's Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit is my number 3. I think,
at some point in your lives, you got to go visit France. You two seem to have an obsession with French accents. I don't know what the hell is going on there.
Oui, oui.
Zigo.
Zigo.
Zigo be someone.
Moi, moi. Oh, that's just straight up Jar Jar Binks. Never mind. That's just Jar Jar Binks. Never mind.
Wow. We just lost France.
Oh no. Our entire France audience is gone.
Whatever shall we do?
Call Chris Matthews.
Oh god. But anyway, Jojo Rabbit I think is stellar. Roman Griffin Davis, that kid is going places. I love the story that it tells with empathy. I love the story that it tells with understanding of one another. Also, I like the personal story that you got. I think that if Roman, all the other characters are great, and all the actors like Sam Rockwell and all that stuff are awesome, but I don't think if Roman Griffin Davis didn't work, this movie would have the whole message and the whole heart of the movie, I think it wouldn't have worked as well. And this boy, shit, the way that he played this confused, troubled youth, and the way that he had these like relationships with his mother, with this Jewish girl that's hidden in his house's walls, and I think that the relationships that he develops with these people is tremendous. Sam Rockwell kicks ass, and I think everybody kicks ass in this movie.
Sam Rockwell is always your lovable racist.
Yes.
In every damn film.
Also, Taika Waititi, great job. Also, to shut this shit down automatically, of why I think that this is in my top 3, shoes. And that's it. That's my argument.
Oh god. Ooh, okay. You just brought this whole place down.
For number 3, and yeah. I think that scene alone just deserves that number 3 spot, because like the way that it tells such a visual way of telling that story, and like putting it full circle with the relationship that Jojo has, I think that it's incredible, and I think that this movie, yeah. Also, good job, Taika.
Oh, I love Taika.
Taika did really well.
Got an Oscar for this film.
Yes, and I was happy for that.
Mm-hmm.
My number 2.
Oh God, we're already at the top 2 with you.
Yeah. We're hitting an hour, Kyle. So
okay. My number 2. I think that this movie should be heralded as a cinematic classic.
Toy Story 4.
No, and it's just, why you keep on saying
Frozen
Toy Story
2.
4? No, not Frozen 2. No, sorry, no. Both of you, stop it.
Toy Story 4.
Why Toy Story 4?
I can't let you.
Well, you're the one that's supposed to tell us why Toy Story 4. It's your list. What do you mean?
It's just two guys. And it's awesome. It's the two popes. The two popes.
Two popes in a hot tub 5 feet apart because they're not gay.
Okay.
I have to say, I am disappointed because I know what's coming and I know what's been eliminated, and I don't understand you, Kyle. You tease something.
God.
You tease something for weeks on end, and then you don't deliver. It's like, why the fuck do you torture us like this? If you're not going to actually deliver it, like, there's no fucking felines on this list. I'm disappointed.
We haven't gotten to number 1 yet.
We know
I
it's
know
Toy
what
Story
number 1
4. Come on.
We haven't gotten to number 1 yet, guys. Hold your horses. The two popes. I said this to Alexis and Peter in our Red Spotlight Entertainment Facebook chat. This movie is a cinematic masterpiece. It's going to be listed as one of the greats, and it's unfortunate that nobody on this goddamn motherfucking planet talked about this movie. It is absolutely stellar.
Did you hear that, Peter? I guess we're nobody.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Okay. Other than those who cared, which is just us three, you know, the two popes, like, honestly, honest to God, I could just watch these two characters, these two versions of these real characters just talk and, you know, figure things out, address their histories, address their problems. You know, the way that there's a moment where Anthony Hopkins says, "I cannot hear the voice of God," and it's just brilliant and absolutely wonderful. And I don't think that this movie is being talked about enough. It is a cinematic masterpiece, the way that they told the story. Jonathan Pryce, good Lord, awesome performance from him. Anthony Hopkins, no exception. These two spearheaded this awesome film of them talking about, like, religion in such a refreshing way that doesn't pander. And honestly, it could have gone that way. When I heard about this movie, I thought it was going to be very pandering about religious issues, but it didn't. And it was and to do it and in such a way, and the tragic stories and facts that I didn't know about, like them tossing the people out of the airplane, absolutely horrific. And this story, I think, will be hard. And I will remember this story. I will remember the two popes, and the two popes, I think, is just phenomenal. And I think that as being amongst Alexis and Peter, I too was raised Catholic. And it touched an emotional core with me in terms of, like, where it lands and all that stuff. So the two popes is number 2.
Can I say it easily had the most sexual energy out of any film on this list so far.
Oh, surpassing The Lighthouse?
Surpassing The Lighthouse.
Wow. Holy shit.
I agree that.
Well, hold on a minute. We got Toy Story 4 to get to.
Yeah, that sexual tension there. Gee whiz. No, but I agree. I really love this film. It's one of those films I feel is, like, primed for someone like me, and really for us. It's like, you know, grew up very Mexican family, very Catholic. I remember, like, having Pope John Paul II's, like, picture framed on the wall, like that was
he
part
was
of the
almost
culture.
like a family member.
Yeah. So this dive into these people is very interesting for me. And even though I know they're very movie versions of these people, maybe I think it's more than fair to say idealized versions of these people. It's so well executed. Yeah. Go ahead.
And I also want to say quickly, because I know that we had a discussion on our podcast when we reviewed the film about whether or not, if you weren't predisposed about the nature of Catholicism, would you even care about this movie? Mm-hmm. And I know that I did the last few shows. I did a show with David about his top 10, and he put the two popes, I think I look at the list right now, at number 6 on his top 10 list. And he was not, he didn't care about this movie. He did not care about the subject matter going into it, but he absolutely loved how the film handled it.
Oh, okay.
So much so that he put it on his top 10 list. Like, also, he really, yeah.
And that's really surprising too.
And he's not raised Catholic, apparently, from what he tells me. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. This is way off topic, but I don't know if you noticed this. this is an issue I had since I was a kid. Like when you're raised a certain way and then you find out people are different, you're like, oh, you're different. It's like, but your default is to think that, oh, you're Catholic, you grew up Catholic, and it's like, no, they didn't grow up Catholic, but because I grew up Catholic, you view childhood that a certain way, right? Like, well, of course,
Right.
you had this, you had that, so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Almost institutionalized.
Yeah, it's weird. Go ahead.
Yeah. Also, it's surprisingly really funny. I love the part where they first meet, and he's like humming a Dancing Queen, and he's like, "What hymn are you whistling?"
What hymn?
He's like a Dancing Queen. He's like, "Oh, Dancing Queen by ABBA," and I was just like, "It's funny. It's really funny." I'm surprised.
It's surprisingly funny, which is one of the reasons why David also really enjoyed the film. He wasn't expecting that kind of humor, a good humor as well.
Also, the recreation
movie.
of the Sistine Chapel is ridiculous. I love it.
It's a disaster that wasn't at least acknowledged for the production design.
Yeah. Okay. My number one.
Memories.
All alone in the moonlight. It's
No.
Cats. Okay, so
It's
finally,
Toy
let's talk
Story
about Cats.
4.
No. Okay. But for reals, we must look a little closer. And when we do,
Oh,
we see
no.
the donut hole
It's
has
Little
a hole
Women.
in its center. It is not a donut hole at all, but a smaller donut with its own hole. And our donut is not a hole at all. Knives Out is the magnum crescendo of this awesome year in films that we've had. I knew I was gonna love this movie going in. You had me sold on the two names of Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig alone, and the way that it turned out even better than I thought it would. I thought this movie would have been great. It topped that. I was interested. It's a classic Rian Johnson, trigger warning, subverted my expectations by revealing what went down.
Somebody needs to keep track of how many times somebody says subverting expectations.
Towards the end of
Like
the
4.
towards the end of the first act, they pretty much reveal what went down. But alas, the story is not again. It's a donut hole. It's a donut hole and a donut's hole, And I think that this is a perfect example of a tight script that needed to be a tight script. I can't find any flaws in this movie whatsoever. I can't nitpick it. I love the performance. I love the dynamic between Daniel Craig's character Benoit Blanc and Marta, Ana de Armas's Marta, which is oh my god, stellar performance on her part. I want a classic kind of neo-gothic manner like Harlan does. It's just a cool little set that they did, and I like how very intimate it is. It's a very intimate story in the way it's told, and you get all these big-headed actors to come in and portray all these different colorful casts of characters that I think is just wonderfully put together and well said and well put. And I think that this is wonderful. And my house, my coffee, my rules, kind of my rules. And it's just
what I'm gathering is that you like the film.
I didn't like it. I loved it.
Oh my god, that patented Rian Johnson twist. You subverted my expectations.
But oh god, I could write a whole entire novel on why this movie worked for me.
Luckily, you probably won't have to wait long for a sequel.
Yes, and I'm very excited about the sequel coming out. There's so many different directions you could take the story, and it's just like you could even have Benoit Blanc coming in with a completely different accent and not explaining anything. Just completely do it. Be completely batshit. Awesome. But the way that it is shaped out and the way that it ended and dipped into its climax, I think it ended perfectly. It began perfectly. I think that this movie is what modern cinema needs. It needs something like this. It needs an intimate movie like this. And also it says a lot about certain cultures in this, and in terms of like the toxicity of them. And honestly, this movie could not be more tailored to me. It is a very Kyle Lira film, and I loved it.
It's I again, I don't know why I can never guess what your favorite film is when it's always obvious. It's the movie with the famous actors dueling the over-the-top bombastic act. Like, it's every time, and I always miss it. I don't know why.
But it's not just that. It's not just that, Peter.
But that's the one thing
only...
in common
No,
from every year.
yes,
I'm telling
yes,
you. Ooh.
yes.
If we go back like the past 3 years.
All you really needed to know was it was Daniel Craig. That's it.
Oh, God, that's true.
I mean, it's not a surprise, although I will say, because some people, apparently there's a disagreement about this.
Oh, what's the disagreement?
Predictability is not necessarily a bad thing. And I think if I'm able to, foresee what movies will be on the list, I think it means that I know you quite well. And I will say, I like this list a lot. Really, I think you have a wonderful range of movies, from entertainment to kookiness, to practically all the colors of the rainbow for the most part.
Did you write down his top 10?
Of course. I always write everybody's movie.
Oh yeah, you want to just
go...
read them just real quick going down? So
Yeah, of course. So the top 10 from Kyle Lira, number 10 was The Irishman. Number 9 was Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Ooh, like that.
8, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 7, The Lighthouse. 6, Booksmart. 5, Rocket Man. 4, Avengers Endgame. 3, Jojo Rabbit. 2, The Two Popes. And 1, Knives Out. I will say... I'm not sure disappointment, but I was hoping to hear more discussion from Kyle either on Joker, which I know you liked the most out of all of us, and then also No Cats. I was looking forward to Cats.
And Toy Story 4, what the hell?
What's with you in Toy Story 4? I don't understand it.
I don't understand. You were the one with it on your list, and then I don't know what happened.
It was never on my list.
You say that, but I mean, come on.
Peter Martinez, I don't know. In the last Fantasy Fair that I listened to, Toy Story 4 was like mentioned like in a number of 10 seconds, and then they went on to brag about how great Frozen 2 was. Just so you know.
Oh my God! Now I'm offended. Okay.
If anything, it would have been Frozen 2.
Oh God! Really?
Toy Story 4. Yeah.
You know what? I can let you throw yourself away.
Oh shit!
Wow. Okay.
So those were my surprises. Peter, any surprises on this list for you?
Any surprises? Like it was a surprise, but it shouldn't have been. With the top one was. So, but yeah, I mean, I love that film, obviously. So I
kept on spelling it out to you guys, every week.
You say a lot of shit, okay?
Yeah, you throw red meat out there. Like, you let us on. You let us on thinking Cats would be on there, Joker would be on there, Toy Story 4 would be on there.
I did not lead on Toy Story 4 being on my list.
Well, somebody kept saying Toy Story 4 again and again.
Peter.
I can't tell anyway. Was it Peter?
Joker. Okay, okay, I'm gonna say something real quick about Joker. Okay, I really love the film. I really love the film. However, I don't want to have that discussion right now.
Do you not agree that we live in a society?
Oh, we do in fact live in a society.
Well, there you go. It's the best film of the year. Just a quick warning: if my audio is a little messy, it's because this goddamn cat will not leave me alone.
Okay.
But yeah, it's fine.
As long as it's being recorded.
Yeah,
as long as it's not a dog.
She just keeps trying to rub up on the thing, and I have to push her away. Oh yeah, I think I really like the list. This is maybe My favorite of your lists, thinking about the other ones you've made, there's been other ones where it's like, you bitch. That you have over certain films that you
Why?
included. I mean, in past years. This
Why?
year, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is a good list. I agree for
Kyle
the
has
most
good
part.
lists usually. I think I have it. I don't remember ever getting angry at anything. He
I
said.
don't know,
Well,
not angry, but just like, oh, you bitch, you would. This is more of that. I'm trying to praise his list. Now you're trying to make me look like the bad guy when I'm praising his list. Yeah.
Duh.
Overall, good. Highly disappointing though. No Toy Story 4. But overall,
Okay. We're clocking in right now at 1:16.
16.
So
we might need to pick up the pace, because
yeah, probably. Real quick though, before we
Okay,
move on,
uh-huh.
I'll be talking for this next hour, but I do want to make sure that we're not forgetting our good friend David Francisco, who
What's up,
actually
David?
listens to these podcasts.
How you doing?
I don't know if anybody had the chance to listen to the podcast that he did when he unveiled his top 10, but in case you didn't know, and in case those listeners didn't listen,
I listen.
I just want to quickly just say that again. So number 10 was Detective Pikachu. Number 9 was Captive State. Number 8 was The Kid Who Would Be The King. Kid Who King.
Kid Who Would Be King.
7 was Klaus. 6 was The Two Popes. 5 was Little Women. 4 was Alita Battle Angel. Number 3 was Knives Out. Number 2 was Booksmart. And number 1 was Avengers Endgame. So Endgame's doing pretty well. So we'll see where that goes.
it won
see where that
another
goes.
caucus. Oh my god.
Oh god.
Is the lead
Well, this is-
insurmountable? Should the moderates coalesce and block out Endgame?
This is popular votes
Oh, okay.
only.
Okay.
Popular votes. And so I will move on now into my top 10. And of course, I have notes and a list and everything, as I usually do. All right. So I have 2 rounds of honorable mentions before I get into the actual top 10. I'm not going to dwell on them at all. I'll just list them out. These are movies that I generally liked to enjoyed. So what do I have here? So Midsommar, Ready or Not, Crawl, Far From Home, How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, Good Boys, Us, Shazam, El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie, Pain and Glory, Rocket Man. I happen to like Frozen 2, so there's that. Late Night and Long Shot. So those are some the first round of honorable mentions. I have more as we go along, but they will be unveiled later on just to keep people off scent. Even though we know how it's going to end, but who cares?
All right, so you're releasing the vote a small percentage at the time.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Just to create a certain narrative that benefits me.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. Isn't it wonderful how people can, the ingenuity of the human mind? So the official number 10 is an interesting one because it kept coming in and out. And I was very...
That's what she said.
I was unsure about it not being in it, and I kept putting it back on the list, and so I rewatched it. By the way, a lot of these movies in my top 10 I had to rewatch like literally 3 or 4 times just to make sure I was sure of that. And thank goodness I had the opportunity to actually do that for once. And the first film is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood by Quentin Tarantino.
And away
Tarantino
we go.
is, yes, exactly. Tarantino is one of our amazing filmmakers, and rarely does he make something that doesn't quite pop, especially for me, except for the last movie he made before this, The Hateful Eight, which I liked, but for reasons that I will not get into, did not exactly work as well for me as Inglourious Bastards or Django Unchained. So maybe because there was parts of it that were too similar. So I was curious about this movie because in large part, especially going into it, it was uncharacteristic of a Tarantino film, mostly because of its reserved nature, as Peter would say, going into that grindhouse shit, as Tarantino just loves to do. And it was interesting. And I will say, I've had different experiences with this movie the more that I've seen it, because I know that when I walked out of the movie with Peter, we were kind of we were positive on the movie, but we were kind of questioning the whole role of Margot Robbie and what it all was about and everything. But the more, and I think Peter would agree, as you know, in subsequent viewings of that movie, I think it kind of crystallizes why she was there and why she's important and why the ending is even more powerful because of that, of her presence. To me, this is not clearly, because we're talking about Tarantino here, it is not his best. And I mean, my favorite film from Tarantino is still Pulp Fiction, because it's Pulp Fiction. But this really holds a special place, I think, as far as rewatchability, because this movie is so obviously close to Quentin's heart in so many ways. And I think you'll notice in a lot of the movies that we've talked about in this year, there have been quite a number of passion projects, quite a number of movies that I think really speak to who the directors are. And I felt like maybe more so than any of the other movies, I got to know Quentin a little more through the lens of this movie. It doesn't hurt that it features, I think, my favorite performances from both Leo and Brad. Really, they're a great part about having to see this again and again, and the atmospheric nature, the recreation of Hollywood Boulevard, just... it's a fucking movie. I mean, it's a what does Al Pacino say? A hell of a picture. Early on in the movie,
the shooting,
exactly.
The violence. I love that stuff.
Just the soundtrack. It is Hollywood 1969, and I think this may be the best recreation of that I've seen. It is also, so spot on.
Also, I don't know if you know this, Peter, but some of these sets are actually miniatures.
Yes, I found that out. I know for sure, like the drive-in was a miniature.
What's interesting about this movie is this is textbook made for the Academy, and it's really shocking that this movie didn't win Best Picture, considering this is the shit they love and how good it is.
Yeah, I thought it was this or a surprise from Joker. I did not see the Parasite win at all, but yeah, especially this, because it is tailor-made for the Academy. It's
just like La La Land or Argo were, although La La Land didn't win in that case.
Maybe they just don't feel like being so obvious anymore, but then, like, why vote for Green Book? It's so weird. No, I learned two things with this film. It's one, Quentin Tarantino, when he made this film, more than anything, he just wanted to step back in time and live in what is considered by him and a lot of people the heyday of Hollywood. That's what he really, more than anything, that's what he wanted to do. It's the way it's shot, the way he slowly just sort of goes for a midnight drive around the town, and you slowly just sort of see the lives of, these bigger than life icons as they a day in their life and their struggles in Hollywood. It's really great. It's really fun. It's really interesting. And again, of course, if you really have any sort of love for this time period or Hollywood in general, it's just double the fun. And the second thing I learned is, God damn, does he love feet? It's always been in his earlier films, but like it was so much in this film to the point where like people in the theater were like
uncomfortable.
They noticed it. Like that's how it got to
Yeah.
the point where they're just kind of laughing at like why are they talking and why is the feet in the literal center of the screen, like, and dirty feet too. Like, okay, I don't know. I'm not gonna get into the feet thing, but yeah.
Like the dirtier.
Well, I
the
don't know if you
better.
noticed, Brad Pitt actually mentioned that in one of his acceptance speeches for
Yeah.
Best Supporting Actor.
That was a good one. That was funny.
I don't know if you know this or saw this, but there's a picture of like of Quentin, and he's getting his close up of a foot shot.
Oh yeah, it's oh god.
It's brilliant. I love it. If that sums up a career, shit. But yeah, I absolutely see what you guys mean about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and honestly, Martin Scorsese has this thing where he says that, you know, if you have a hankering, or if you're dying to tell a story, then you know you're making a film, and this is right here an example of that through and through because of that. And I know that he really likes this shit, and you could definitely see that going forward. So, yeah, Alexis, what's your number 9?
So, my number 9 is I teased, I think in the last podcast, I was gonna make a fairly controversial remark with this movie. And the controversy isn't with its placement. I think, well, not in this list, but in other lists, I'm sure. Scorsese, The Irishman. So it didn't hurt, again, that this came off my exploration into a lot of great works for the first time of Scorsese. We were doing the Scorsese files, as we called them in Red Spotlight back before Irishman came out, and we had Peter and I had great fun, talking about his many great movies in anticipation, and it created an anticipation for this film, and it didn't disappoint, which is gobsmacking because the track record of this guy is unparalleled. Especially in terms of not just a work of art, but as something that was so meaningful and special that came from him. It is insanely long, but it is all the better for it. I will defend the length of this film till my dying day.
Oh, it took me 2 days to finish this movie.
I've seen this movie 3 times, okay?
Holy shit.
Wow.
Sit down. That's a long time. And that's kind of one of the things that kept bringing me back to the movie is I discovered, watching it again, how much fun it actually was to revisit. And it reminds you that even in a film that is in many ways reserved, it is still entertaining enough to watch again and again and again. But it isn't just that. In fact, I think the entertainment for me is the last thing about this movie that I think makes it as great as it is. And when I said about the controversial statement, this is easily, and I easily might offend some people because we're talking about some of the best films ever made. But when we're talking about the pantheon of Scorsese crime dramas, this is easily my favorite one.
Okay, yeah, this is controversial.
Wow.
Easily my favorite one.
Over Goodfellas?
All of them.
Oh, shit.
Every
Holy
single
shit.
one of them. Yeah,
Bold
I told
move,
you.
Alexis. Bold move.
And I want to take this time before I am skewered to say that I loved Casino. I owned the film, and I loved Goodfellas. And to many, I would still
tense.
consider.
Emphasis
I would
on
still
the past
consider
tense of
Goodfellas
loved.
to be. I would still consider Goodfellas to be his second best movie he's ever made, and technically
best.
to Taxi Driver.
Wow.
Okay, wait. Then wouldn't you consider The Irishman his second best film?
Okay. On a technical level, Goodfellas is a better movie.
Okay.
I am
okay.
speaking for me
Personally.
and what
Okay.
I look for
Okay.
in movies.
All right, that
Irishman
makes-
works. Yes.
That makes the statement a little bit better.
That's what I'm saying here. I'm not trashing Goodfellas. I love the film. I'm just saying that for me, there's something in this movie that's explored that appeals to my sensibilities of what I look for in movies, and not that the other films lack this, but I think it connected with me on a more profound level.
Because you're an old fuck.
Yeah, basically.
Alexis does have a thing for old men, so let's see where this goes.
The journey that is explored in the film, and having to see these great actors, which I would even argue disappear into their characters completely, is how great they are, age, the cruel time, or the cruel mistress of time, shall we say, I think is shown in a way here that I felt was more kind of traumatizing in a way, because after watching this movie, I just began to look at people around me and kind of was fixating on, oh God, this guy looks a lot older. I know that there was this one instance where Kyle and I were watching Imagineering Story, and it featured Tony Baxter, a Disney Imagineer, from back in the 80s and then a clip to him of where he is now, and just seeing the side-by-side effect of him having aged so many years, it reminded me of the impact that Irishman had on me. And there's just something I feel more interesting on a human psychological level, as Scorsese says, that Marvel films don't have, that happens with the characters of these in Irishman, that I necessarily did not feel all the way pulled into with the other crime dramas. Even though, yes, we do have pieces of shit in this movie as well, I like these pieces of shit better than I like the other pieces of shit in Casino or Goodfellas. I don't know if that makes any sense, but there was something about the journey with Joe Pesci and De Niro, and especially Pacino here, that made this film feel more grand. And I found it especially disappointing.
Alexis, so what you're telling me is it's what it is.
It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece, and it comes at the right time. Like, Scorsese could only have made this movie right now when he is in his mid to late 70s, when you have these golden age crime celebrities in their 70s going into their 80s. And there's something especially powerful because this is... this could be his finale to crime dramas. And it would be a perfect ending, as the ending was for this movie. You know, I really, really loved this film, and I'm surprised how little it's come since its initial release. And a lot of people have really just so casually dismissed it by saying, well, yeah, it's good, but like if it wasn't made by Scorsese, would we really be like talking about it? And is it really Casino? And I'm like, did you watch the movie? I mean, did you not watch those amazing moments, the beautiful costumes, the cinematography, the acting, the emotional, heartbreaking face of De Niro when he's looking out and seeing his daughter dance with Pacino, knowing he has to kill him, and then when he does kill him, or Pesci as this quiet, reserved monster, lovable monster. So many things you could say, but do you see what I'm saying about this and why this maybe was more bigger for me than the other ones? If you care to comment on that.
I will say, I feel
wrong.
like when you adore a film and you feel like it's not getting its deserved, I accolades,
Right.
You tend to dig down into the film and
Right.
love it even more. Yeah. So I mean,
good films can do that.
respect
Surprisingly,
the opinion. Disagree that it's his best.
I didn't expect anyone to agree with that. I just want to make sure people understand where I'm coming from. It's like if I had to pick between that and the others.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And plus, you're an old fart, so.
Yes, I'm 88 years old today.
Unlike Moreno, shit, who knows how old she is?
Oh my gosh, she is falling apart by the seams. Have you seen her lately?
Oh God, yeah.
She's like that bathtub lady from The Shining.
No,
Moreno?
or she needs to remove her ruby necklace.
This blatant misogyny from these two other Bernie bros, I don't endorse it. I don't. I wash my hands clean. It's ageism and misogyny.
The night is dark and full of terrors. That's all we're gonna say.
Anyway, this is the part of the show where Peter gets upset at me because I praise the movie so much, and it technically should be higher, but it's not. And it's not for the very reason that I just happen to love other movies more, even though I would very much say that this is another Roma situation here. Well, actually not Roma. I think it was the other one. Parasite.
At number 8.
Yes, at number 8, because you know what? Number 8 is a pretty good place to be, considering that all of the movies that I have in my top 10, I love so much. And again, before you levy such horrific attacks against me, I want to reiterate that the differences between 1 through 10 are minuscule at best.
There are still differences.
There are. For instance, I have the film in my top 10. Kyle didn't. So we'll just leave that where it is. So this movie, we've praised this so many times, I feel already, but it's an amalgamation of who the person who made it, Bong Joon-ho. It is a Korean film, but it's also uniquely universal, where it is touching upon a class issue, not just class issue, but a number of issues that are affecting just about every kind of people and every kind of place on this planet.
That's a theme with his movies.
Yeah, it is. And no one has ever criticized it for being brought in needlessly. It's not as if he shoehorns these things in. He finds very effective ways of inserting those things that feel very much organic to what is happening, not just with the narrative, but with the characters. It's interesting because the best ensemble of the year as far as cast is concerned is definitely Knives Out. But then I look at the cast for Parasite, and when I think about that, these are actors who I can't understand what they're saying. I literally have to read the subtitles to know what they're saying. But just the performances that are captured through the camera, I think this gives Knives Out a big run for its money in terms of its ensemble. And you definitely saw why it was that it won in so many areas. It is the film of the year because of what it touches. It also, again, similarly to Scorsese, Bong Joon-ho finds ways to not only make this feel important, but also thrilling and captivating. Because, this seems to be a pattern, but like we get halfway through his movie and something unfolds and you're literally having your jaw hit the floor and you're aghast at like, wait, what movie am I watching again? Because something just changed here that changed my entire understanding for what it was that I was seeing. And he has a great talent for doing that. and for making it look and feel visceral and raw, and not necessarily holding anything back. It is also, again, very much rewatchable, and very, very happy that the movie is finding an audience in the States and all over the world now. It was just announced today that it's going to go on Hulu in a number of weeks with this movie. So, and look, I mean, this is a director who, previously I knew from Snowpiercer. Also a great film. And this really solidified it. And this is going to be one movie that we'll never forget in that regard. Kyle, did you have any thoughts on this movie?
I think that this movie is a lot of things. I think that the way that it had to deal with all these like families, the way that it was shrouded, the character Moon, the Moon character, I think that really excelled it in terms of like the acting, and I think he should have been in the front runner of the acting categories in the Oscars. But I think that this movie was really good.
I'd just like to remind everyone that he put this film at number 8.
I'll remind them as well,
8.
because what comes next is number 7. That was better. So, now this is okay. This one's hard. This one is hard because it shows the sheer power that movies can have in a medium in which people would not suspect from. I have a sense that Peter has a good idea of what I'm referring to.
Yep.
And Kyle...
Toy Story 4.
Yep. And Kyle may recoil at it because not that it's a bad, for his reasons he avoided this movie like the plague. But this is a movie, and I want to stress this here because I know people are gonna like give me some really weird reactions here. This isn't a movie that is fun to watch. This is a movie that is horrific. It is disturbing, and it is, yes, it's Toy Story 4, and it is traumatizing children. Yes, I'm referring to the documentary film Leaving Neverland. And it's on this list because this is what films do when they work their magic. They are powerhouses that smack you in the face, and they make you reevaluate the society, go figure, the culture in which you are in. And people are going to immediately start say, okay, first of all, putting Michael Jackson to the side, because it's not about that, looking at the documentary film. This is why I love documentary filmmaking, because of what it can invoke in you. Things, to me, are far more horrific if they come from a place of truth. And no other example can I name them from this. It also is a little bit personal for me because I know there were a lot of cues that I took from this movie in particular, as well as other documentary films that I used to make my own short form documentary, which I don't know if I told people, but it's actually been submitted to the Nova Film Festival in the Capital Market. I've not told anybody that, but it's actually been it's been submitted. Judy Go Wong, who was so gracious enough to do the interview for that movie, asked for it, and it's there. So we'll see what happens. But a lot of
force be with you.
Gonna be schmoozing with the Hollywood elites.
Not Hollywood. This is in fucking Virginia. Anyway, because it was made in Virginia.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the cues that I used, the inspiration to do that and to tell a story that was so powerful came from seeing this movie. Again, this isn't a movie I love to watch. Naturally, I know that in the discussions that I had with Peter about this, he and I, or at least I did, had nightmares about this. Literal nightmares. I can't remember the last time I saw a movie that make me have nightmares, and seeing things in the dark that were just, unbelievably horrific. So, and again, I want to make people to understand this. It's not me putting this movie here is not in any way to chastise the individual who is very much on trial in this. It's about the power and the form of a documentary film that I feel strongly and passionate about, that many people just don't consider to be real movies. And as Peter can attest to, this is probably one of the best examples of, you can call it emotionally manipulative, but damn, does it work.
Yeah, it does work on on the emotions it's setting out to stir in you.
Yeah.
Very,
I want to hear in great detail Kyle's thoughts.
This is not an attack on Kyle, nor should Kyle consider this an attack on him. I want to make that clear.
Yeah, but I kind of want to turn it into one. So, Kyle, what did you think of this pick?
Is it a curveball? Were you guys expecting this one?
I feel like you've talked about it quite a bit.
Right.
So it wasn't out of left field.
I avoided this movie because I already know all the stuff that Michael Jackson did, and I don't think I'll have the stomach for it. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Which is perfectly understandable, because to be sure, I didn't have the stomach for it. I'll tell you that. I just want to make sure. I wrote this down because this is exactly what I was feeling when I was thinking about this movie. This makes me feel like shit to realize how monstrous people can be, and how humanity can turn a blind eye to anything. I'm glad that it does, though. Films are so much more than entertainment and craft, and this is the best example of it. And again, not to say that documentaries are all true. Of course, this is a version, somebody's side of the story, but to the effect that it's working its magic, I feel that it does so, and then some.
Yeah, films are empathy machines.
Yep. So.
All right, number 4.
Scarlett Johansson, right, was in 3 movies this year?
All on your list, yes.
Uh-huh. Actually, no.
Oh.
Number 6. It's surprising because I'm not going to do a Kyle. Number 6 is Jojo Rabbit. Taika Waititi. ScarJo.
Was it both your guys' number 6?
Roman Griffin Davis. No.
Mine was my number 3.
Yeah, he had it higher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So Roman Griffin Davis, a pure revelation, captures the whimsical innocence of a child better than I can remember any other actor doing.
Whoa, okay, Siskel.
For a coming of age / political satire film that this is. It is a weird one. It's a weird one, and I'm...
Oh, by the way,
yeah.
He delivers the best line in the movie.
Which line?
Fuck you, Hitler.
Oh, well, yeah. And still people thought it was like controversial.
Nobody watches these movies.
It's one of the most unique movies I've experienced in a long time, because okay, on paper, what? A coming of age movie that's hidden inside a political satire on the Nazis? What? And as Peter said many times in the reviews, in order for this to have worked, you really had to walk a fine line, a really fine line. And I don't know how Taika did it, but man, I think he delivered something that was legitimately moving. And while I greatly enjoyed Thor Ragnarok and What We Do in the Shadows, particularly for their comedic pieces, one of the things, and I think this came up when Peter and I were discussing, or at least Kyle and all of us were discussing, the possibility of Taika being recruited for Guardians 3 in that whole rehire James Gunn bullshit thing that happened in that 6-month span. One of the reasons why we all, among other reasons, why we were not necessarily in favor of Taika doing it was because the Guardians movies are an emotional powerhouse at their core. And I hadn't seen anything in Taika's repertoire or discography, as we say, filmography, that would indicate that he has prioritized that kind of emotion or heart in any way. Let me be clear. I've only seen What We Do in the Shadows and Thor Ragnarok, so I can't speak to what came before that could have shown signs of that. And when I saw it, it was surprising to see that it was, I mean, yes, it was funny, but it was more than that. It was beautiful.
It has like a heart gut punch to the movie that I was not expecting. Like, talk about left field. Like that, the emotional core of the movie really gut punched you. Some scenes are rather suspenseful as hell, too. And I was not expecting it. I was expecting, funny romp with the message, fuck Nazis. I mean, that's a good message, as well. But it is surprisingly heartwarming to a degree that I was not expecting. And I think that right there is like the best part of the movie. Is that it is its heart,
and it's perfectly encapsulated with Roman Griffin Davis in this movie as JoJo, and seeing what he goes through, and I guess you could say the hero's journey that he goes through. But as other directors, like I've said with Bong Joon-ho, Quentin Tarantino, and Martin Scorsese, Taika in this movie really kind of showed his heart much more overtly than I had ever seen him do before in any one of his films. And it immediately appealed to me when I realized that it was a coming-of-age film, which I love those movies. Go figure. I found it very, very reassuring to me that even in a very generic, very vanilla, as far as taste is concerned, as our area, that they were having as good of a time watching that movie as we were. And it gave me such hope that, odd little creations like this can actually appeal to a wider audience
and shine through
when given the chance.
The little engine that could.
And it ended in the best way possible. A lot of these movies, going from this point forward, and I guess this is why Parasite isn't in this part, because Parasite's not necessarily in the best happy ending. You know how happy endings are for me, guys, so it's not really a surprise. But it is an inspirational ending. Just the weird zaniness of having Jojo and Elsa dance to the German version of David Bowie's Hero. And then that beautiful inspirational quote where it ends off, it's like, let things happen to you. And it's like, I mean, that genuine surprise. And I didn't expect this movie to end up being so high, at least in my top 10. And needless to say, it overperformed. So that's numbers 10 through 6. Before I move on to the top 5, I have my second wave of honorable mentions, which are also going to upset some people because I couldn't find space to put these movies into. Klaus.
Can I hear that again, Alexis?
Klaus.
Oh, music to my ears. Go on, explain. I know it's in honorable mentions, but the fact that he even mentioned it is all the justification I need. Go ahead.
Well, the
Mr. Alexis
justification
Soto.
you were looking for, my friend, would have been granted to you had you listened to the previous shows where I reviewed the film with my good friend David Francisco and where I eloquently expressed my true feelings for the movie. It is one of the best Christmas movies I've ever seen and one of the best in a long time. Heart is key. Characters are key. And the use of 2D animation reminds us why this is a style of animation that should not be let go the way of the dodo. Beautiful animation that I felt should have won the Academy Award just based on the animation alone. That being said, there's an animated movie in my top 10 and it ain't that, so there's that.
Oh, no.
Dolomite is, and it's Frozen too. Dolomite is my name.
No!
What?
It's Toy Story 4, isn't it?
It's Frozen too. Dolomite is my name.
It looks like we're going into the unknown.
Dolomite is My Name is a great film.
It is. It has a great cast as well. But I think for a lot of us, really, it was just, oh God, it was a breath of fresh air getting to see Eddie Murphy in a movie again. It had been so long, and he was really, really, really good. Like, a lot of people thought that this should have been in consideration for Best Actor. At least
I think it should have been.
Some talk of it. And I loved Eddie Murphy's portrayal of Dolomite here. Just the earnestness, the endearment of him wanting to put himself out there after, having his dreams washed up and then making them happen. And, of course, making it funny, which was hysterical, obviously. Although not my favorite comedy of the year, as we'll go. Next. Ooh, I think this one just got swapped a little further. Little Women. Greta Gerwig.
Mm-hmm.
Greta is, mark my words, going to be one of the greats, period, as far as movie making. Lady Bird was beautiful, as was this. There was a level of charm and heart and beauty and empowerment that was woven in throughout all of the characters in this film. Did we lose Kyle?
Yeah, but I assume he would just call back.
Well, okay. Woven all throughout the characters in this movie. Of course, it has a wonderful performance by Saoirse Ronan and by Florence Pugh and many others. So I feel bad because I feel like if I had walked out and just walked out having the movie in my mind, it would have easily cracked top 10. And I didn't get the chance to revisit it. And unfortunately, when I walked out of the movie, the fucking Iran thing happened and it ruined my mood entirely. It honestly ruined my entire experience because of what real world got in the way of it. Like I walked out of this movie. It was an incredibly cathartic experience. You walk out and it's like a middle finger is literally being shoved in your eye. Is how it felt.
So you're saying you're no better than the Oscars for shunning this film?
Well, I didn't shun it. I reevaluated all the films, and I wanted to make sure, okay, as a movie, do I want this in the top 10? And it just so happened that there were other films that I wanted in the top 10 more than this one. But I will say, this, I think, is an instant classic. An instant classic that for generations to come, they're going to be looking back on this movie. A lot of little girls are going to grow up on this movie. And I think the world is going to be a lot better for it. I loved it, and I love Greta, and I think beautiful. This one surprised me. and it surprised me how even better it got when I saw it again. Booksmart, Olivia Wilde, all the things Kyle said and more. One of the most surprising comedies, I think the best comedy of the year. I love that Olivia Wilde went out of her way to make this movie look actually interesting instead of just like this boring way that most comedies film their movies. This will be an instant classic as well as Little Women was. My next honorable mention, Lulu Wang's The Farewell. Beautiful movie. Awkwafina and Zhao Zhuzhen, powerhouse. Also, oh my god! Emotional
What's
movie.
wrong?
I don't want to reuse the same words, but I have to move on. So loved it. Moving on to my last.
Well, these are the honorables. You don't got to get into it.
Marriage Story is my last honorable mention.
Okay.
Good. And this was a surprise because it was going to be in the top 10 and then it wasn't. But ScarJo and Adam Driver are incredible actors. And wow, being alive.
Also, another Randy Newman movie.
Well, hopping from one Randy Newman film to the other.
Oh no!
You really walked into that one.
Good, I segued. I helped you with that segue.
Yeah, there's gonna be just like 2 movies in this top 5 that have numbers next to them, but they don't correspond with the right numbers. So it's so strange.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, god damn it. Forgive me if this one feels a bit long. So my number 5 is Toy Story 4.
I knew it.
Cause
vindication.
Yeah. Vindication, yes.
Oh no.
Why? Oh no.
I can't let you.
I mean, the whole podcast has been building to this moment, according to you.
This is the crescendo. Yes.
Yep, this is where we are.
This is where the conversation begins and ends.
Yeah.
With Toy Story.
I want to, throw some preemptive missiles at both of your directions.
But you can't let it throw.
Before before the attacks come in my direction, because
fuck you for liking a film.
Yeah, exactly. Peter Martinez did a very effective job of making me so depressed about this film existing in the lead up to it. And not to give him all the credit, but the Pixar sequels have been very underwhelming. And in fact, it was the Incredibles 2 movie that really just, the bottom fell out, and I just got angry that these movies are being made and that no effort, it seemed anyway, was being put into them. And it made me angry that Toy Story 4 was happening, because this was a roller coaster of a journey. When Toy Story 4 was announced way back when in 2015, I was excited because, like, well, okay, I love Toy Story. And then came the hate train of literally the entire fucking world. Like, but Toy Story 3 was the best ending, and it is still the ending of the franchise in many people's eyes. And so it was this weird roller coaster where I was excited, then I was filled with such anxiety, and then I saw the movie and I enjoyed it and I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Mm-hmm.
We did the podcast review, I think, with Peter, and then also on Fantasy Fair.
Even the High Priestess, Miss Moreno.
Oh no, she hates it.
Oh, okay. So she's liked it even less.
Well, actually,
okay.
she liked it, but because she's a Buzz stan, it wasn't really her thing, you know. That's just kind of, look, I'm being real. I mean, that's
a Buzz stan. You Disney fanatic.
She literally said that the Buzz was the reason she saw these movies, all of them. So of course this was not going to be that great for her. Not to dismiss her, but you know, she is old. We did the reviews on our shows, and I seemed to like it the most, even though I wasn't necessarily in love with it, although the rest of you also were complimentary toward the movie.
It's a good movie.
And then,
I'll admit that.
That's what I'm saying. You guys were saying good things about it. I'm not saying that you guys trashed it. All I'm saying is in those discussions, I seemed the most positive, although I didn't love the movie at that point. And then I saw it.
The red herring was obviously you having a poster of it in your room.
But the poster came after I had an epiphany. What is this? Oh, God.
Epiphany?
Yeah.
You had an epiphany with Toy Story 4.
Sorry, I'm distracting.
No, I have to apologize to the audience. It is so hard having to do these shows when there is a fucking election season going on. I'm sorry. I am so distracted right now. The poster came after I had a realization about why the movie was actually kind of speaking to me and me alone. Being real here, the film actually had a much more emotional resonance with me than I initially gave it credit for. And it's for a very particular reason. Woody has been a character that has been with me my entire life. And I know Kyle would also say this about Woody, was kind of our pal, growing up as toddlers and infants, growing up on those movies. And so psychologically, you feel like when you see Woody, you're looking at an old friend, your oldest friend maybe. And the reason why the movie...
I mean, you got a friend in me,
well,
right?
Yeah. But the reason why the movie kind of broke through in a way that no other movie kind of did...
I want to add to what you said about Woody. Growing up, my favorite toy was my pull-string Woody. I absolutely adored it, and I get what you mean. It kind of extends a little bit beyond your common nostalgia, and I get it.
Well, it's like I kept thinking about this movie, and I didn't understand what it was, because I didn't necessarily love it all that much. But then I realized that when I saw it again with my family when I came back from Washington, D.C., and when I said previously, I don't talk about this, and I don't know if any of you two picked up on this earlier when I came back last year, but I was not in a good place emotionally. I was very lost and empty and not knowing what to do or what I just did for all these years was all for. And it really moved me, and especially thinking about this film as we were getting closer and closer to this top 10 list. Woody goes through an existential crisis in this film of being entirely devoid of meaning, having put in so much of his life and energy into something and then having it just go away, and finding yourself in a place of not belonging anywhere and feeling lost with who you are. And as I mentioned years and years ago, that's why Winter Soldier was such a great movie for me, and why, because in that time I was having an identity crisis of sorts. There was a lot of things that I was just losing faith in. And the turmoil that Steve Rogers was going through at that time mirrored almost kind of perfectly the things that I was going through in my life. In a similar way that Woody's story in this movie mirrored what I was experiencing. And it made me cope with the situation that I had been placed in. The situation in which I felt that nobody could see or really understand the deep sadness that I felt inside of me all throughout last year. Funnily enough, it was the saddest year of my life since 2014, which coincidentally, those are my favorite years in films of the last decade. So I don't know what that says about me.
You were deep in your feels.
Yeah.
So you connected more with the film.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
The funny thing to do would be to just knock this film down
Harp
entirely.
on.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And then just, yeah. But, it's 2020. New decade, new me. So I will say, I think that is an interesting and highly valid reason for including Toy Story 4 in your top 4. Five. Yes.
See what I told you? The numbers don't correspond. It gets weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that means Frozen 2 is either
Number
number
3
one
or
or
number
number
1.
3.
I'm going for number 1. Let's go all the way.
Wait, what's number 1?
No, not Frozen 2.
Oh, no, that's coming up. No. But just people understand. Just make sure people understand. Woody has been with me my whole life, and to see him go through what I went through made me feel better about my situation, and made me kind of see some kind of light at the end of the tunnel that I was going through. You know, I don't talk about the things that I go through inside my mind all that often, but it was worth mentioning here because this is what spoke to me.
When you said that, I just thought, what is going inside his head? And then Inside Out.
I will say though, just I wanted to see how it played. I rewatched all of the Toy Story films again for the first time with 4 at the end, just to see how it would play. And it actually was pretty great. Like my feelings of it, as ironically enough, as a standalone adventure, kind of went up when I saw it compared to the other movies. I really do love the film. So,
fuck Bonnie.
Oh well, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean,
The real villain.
the real. Yeah. Okay, quickly, you got to move on through this. Number 4 is Dr. Sleep.
Wow. Okay.
Are you
What?
really
Okay.
surprised by that?
Well, maybe I haven't spoken with him as much about it as you have, as I have with you.
Okay, because he has been loving this film ever since it came out. That's not a surprise at all.
Well, it's like,
Okay.
again, kind of like with Irishman, we built up anticipation toward this because I, for the first time, visited the Overlook Hotel in the Shining film. And we had such a great podcast, which I'm offended that you forgot even took place when Moreno brought it up to your attention.
We do so much shit, and I'm half asleep most of the time. It's, okay, come on.
It was
You know what? I gotta try doing these podcasts half asleep.
Sometimes I get mean when I do it, so.
sometimes. Okay.
But it's 2020, right?
New year,
New year,
yeah.
new me. No, The Shining was a revelation for me. My favorite horror movie of all time, and my second favorite horror movie would be this one. Doctor Sleep is my favorite kind of horror film because I think it encapsulates a lot of what I loved about The Shining, but it also does what I love about great sequels, is that it expands, but it also stands on its own 2 feet. And has beautiful performances by Ewan McGregor, and especially oh my god, I'm losing my voice here. Rebecca Ferguson and so many others in this movie. Look, Mike Flanagan is the star of this. Writing this from his adaptation of Stephen King's novel, there's something beautiful in this film, and especially its subtle commentary on death and what is beyond the great beyond, as it were. Especially with the titular character of Dr. Sleep. It is also
it's the heavy side layer.
It is incredibly cathartic. Even I think a character study, really. And I can't decide if I preferred the theatrical or the director's cut. The director's cut was 3 hours long. but that gave much more nuance than was not previously shared in the original theatrical version of it.
I'd say director's cut.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, it's the best X-Men movie.
It really is. No, it really is. I mean, to say nothing of its of the horror elements or the visual effects. I mean, it all works at a level 10 for me. Yes, it was incredibly exciting to see all of these elements. I was invested in all of the characters, the villains, the heroes. It is a movie that I think we've watched, at least 3 or 4 times, and it does not get old. It gets better every single time. I think it enriches for me my love for The Shining, and I love those two as their own films individually. I think it does beautiful stuff with the character of Dan Torrance, and then also with his father. No spoilers there. And it does something weird for a horror film. And I think that's also the trend for what we saw in Toy Story 4 and Jojo Rabbit. It ends on a very inspirational note, a very uplifting note.
It's a really dark film about, your past ghosts, your demons, addiction, overcoming yourself and your past and who you are, and, parental figures. There's a lot of dark shit within the film, but I think with all Flanagan's work, most of it, he does have a pretty good beating heart, and he often puts that in his films. And with this, there are so many amazing character moments within the film that I absolutely love. I mean, the biggest point, of course, the discussion he has with his father at the Overlook during the third act. The great thing about it is it doesn't try to be The Shining, at least for the most part. It acts as a sequel, it acts as its own film, it asks as many things, and it succeeds very much at most, if not all of those things. I agree with you, this one hit all the right spots.
Yeah. Isn't it novel for us to agree on something? Okay, number 3, The Two Popes. For all the reasons that that Kyle said, and more, Jonathan Pryce and Anthony Hopkins gave a performance for the ages. My 2 favorite acting performances of this year, maybe of the whole decade. They're the whole movie. And to say nothing of the fact that a movie about 2 people talking with each other can be as captivating as some of the biggest blockbusters, some of the most emotional character studies, is impressive as all hell. This, looked like all the conventions of a standard Oscar bait movie, and it wasn't that. It
could have been easily overly pretentious.
Yeah, it could have, and it wasn't. It was also. It does also speak to my spirituality. Again, not something that I broadcast or talk about all that often, but, the idea of philosophy of these, these 2 giants, if you will. And also just how beautifully crafted the film is. Another, Peter and I discussed about whether, it might have improved if it had been more balanced and giving us a little bit more of the past with Ratzinger, and not just, Francis or Bergoglio. But it picks a point of view, and I think even when it does that, it's fair, and it's deeply moving and emotional, and it gives me hope that the values that are inherent in this religion that is connected with our cultural backgrounds, it gives me hope that there are people in the future like Francis who can move this ancient religion in a direction that is more representative of where people are today, and is more loving and understanding and compassionate and intelligent about people and the planet and everything. And yes, it's a left-wing diatribe, whatever. That's what I want to do with everything. I get it. But
fucking Bernie, bro.
I bet you'd speak kindly of Castro.
Just like Barack Obama did.
Just like Barack Obama.
So on all of that, I'm sure we can agree on the two popes. Number 2, and that was number 3. Shit. Number 2 is Knives Out.
Oh my God, Frozen 2 is number 1. Oh no.
So Knives Out. I mean, I already loved Rian Johnson, but Knives Out, and
Even
again,
after he ruined Star Wars.
Oh, fuck off. This is the best original film, like original, that I've seen in years. It is easily my favorite movie of its genre, of this whodunit murder mystery. And it shows you why Rian Johnson is a spectacular filmmaker. And I don't mean to crap on J.J. Abrams, but he's literally the exact opposite of that, where like J.J. just loves to swim in nostalgia and vapid crap. Johnson really loves to examine what the material is and almost makes it kind of a pseudo commentary on it while making it kind of the best version of that genre.
He tries to pick apart what makes it tick.
Yes.
And then push it forward.
Yes.
At the same time. Yeah.
It's kind of like you make a good analogy. It's like he dissects a grandfather clock and he tries to piece it all together and see what makes it work.
He puts it back together in a way where it may work better than it had before, and it made you remember why it is you loved it in the first place. That's a great analogy. The writing is the best writing in any movie, clearly. How can you not say that it is? Because the tangled weaves you have to write. I mean, how do you write something like this and not kill yourself? Like, watching this movie for
KFC FBI.
Watching this movie subsequent times, you really do feel stupid. It's like it's staring you in the face. All of the damn answers are there. And I love movies that tell you what's happening the entire time, but you're too stupid to realize. Or not too stupid, but the filmmaking is too smart that it's distracting your attention in every which way.
I think that's where a lot of people draw their I wouldn't say hatred or loathing or anything, that's too strong of a word, but like the contention that a lot of people have with Rian Johnson is because
people hate him. No, people really, really fucking hate him.
It's because he does make you think. You know, and not many people do that. You know, he makes you think. He doesn't make movies to make you comfortable. You know, he makes movies to tell you a story. You know, and I think that's what's incredible about what he did and everything like that. So yeah. Also, it's amazing how the main character, her character quirk is vomiting.
It's important that the main character was like the only good person, the person with a good heart that won. And I mean, it's amazing how, and again, I guess this speaks to one of the best endings in the movie all year. Ana de Armas was great. So was Daniel Craig. Don't get me wrong, but it was hilarious how the movie ended. And like, to me, when I see that ending, like I picture Rian Johnson as Ana de Armas in the mansion, and all those fucking Thrombies as like the Last Jedi cult, or the anti-Last Jedi cult. Honestly, like, we have to thank if this movie won Best Picture, I would feel like we have to thank the Phantom Menace, because this movie kind of wouldn't exist if it weren't for that.
Also, it's kind of cool how like the first shot and the last shot is that mug.
Yeah.
There's so many little things you can say with this film.
Too many. So at one point we should be doing a commentary on that. So my favorite movie of the year was Joe and Anthony Russo, Chris Marcus, Steve McFeely, the whole cast. I think you heard these people: Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson. It goes on and on and on. No surprise that my
God
favorite,
damn it, it's a marriage story.
Yeah, my favorite film was Avengers Endgame. I'm not gonna like drag it out because this could have been, I don't know, telegraphed 5 years ago and it would have surprised nobody. It is the culmination of all of not just the
Russo cultists.
Yes. But more than that. The culmination of these 10 years of movies, and again, like as I've said repeatedly, that the MCU holds a special place because I feel in large part I wouldn't have started talking about this kind of stuff if it wasn't for two particular movies that came out a certain year that were Marvel, that were kind of big and everything. But it was the closing chapter of perhaps my favorite character in cinematic history.
Iron Man.
Yeah, sure. Being on this journey, Joe and Anthony Russo with Captain America. These last 4 movies that they've done. I am a cultist of the Russos, clearly. But, they've never disappointed me. And I know Peter will have some things to say about that throughout the end of time. But they've never let me down. And they've never let me down with my favorite character. I've said so many things about the inner, complexities of it, but I will say, without question, my favorite theatrical experience, the roller coaster of emotions that I felt. I've never laughed as hard, was as happy, or cried as much. Ugly cry and happy cry. It's a moment that's going to forever live in my mind and my heart. And as is said at the end of the movie, it is really bumming me out that we have to live in a world without Captain America. At the end of that. So,
until next time on Disney Plus.
Well, that's not
Get your
him.
subscription now.
So that's the top 10 for me. Real quick, 10 was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 9 was The Irishman. 8 was Parasite. 7 was Leaving Neverland. 6 was Jojo Rabbit. 5 was Toy Story. 4 was Doctor Sleep. 3 was The Two Popes. 2 was Knives Out, and 1 was Avengers Endgame. I do so apologize for going over time, but it's what it was. Peter, get into this. Let's go.
It's what it is.
Oh, so now we hurry once it's my turn. Okay.
Take as much time as you want. I'm just saying, can you tell us how many movies that you have seen?
Okay. I have 65 films to get through. So, let's get started. I'll go through about 55 of my honorable mentions. I'm just gonna list them off pretty quick.
Yeah.
If there's any I want to dive slightly deeper into, I'll maybe add a couple more sentences to it.
I want to say quickly though.
Yes.
Look, I know we might react as if we're teasing him. No, you should be applauded for going out of your way to seeing this many movies. Really, I couldn't. I only saw 60, which was my personal best, really, of any year. But damn, that's all I gotta say.
I didn't see 65. This is the amount of films I liked.
You liked, yeah. That's a
In
difference.
reality, it's closer to, I don't know, 70, 80. I don't know. All right, let's start with these honorable mentions. Alita Battle Angel. I really like this film. I'm glad that David put it on his top 10. It's my kind of film. Us. Jordan Peele's Us. Shazam. Paddleton. This is a Netflix film. It's about an unlikely friendship. I really suggest you guys watch it. It's extremely depressing, but it's also uplifting.
Uplifting.
I struggled with this one, but Avengers Endgame.
Oh, how terrible for you. Just to bring yourself to say that you liked it.
Oh,
wow.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible.
Yeah.
John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum. He went pew
that's a
pew,
great one.
and I loved it. Godzilla, King of the Monstars. Awesome. I Am Mother. This is a sci-fi Netflix film. Really good. Check it out.
I've heard about that.
Toy Story 4.
That makes your honorable mentions. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't hate it. But, I mean, Annabelle Comes Home also made my honorable mentions because I like goofy, spooky films. Spider-Man: Far From Home. I didn't fall asleep. Midsommar. Okay. Okay, real quick. Me and Alexis saw this film in an empty theater. Not like there was a couple of people. Literally empty theater.
It was just you two.
Literally just us two. It was a bit weird. Memorable experience.
There were noises that came out of our bodies.
Yes.
Well, you guys are alone.
Yeah. Moving on. Crawl. This is a fantastic film everyone needs to watch.
This was so surprising. Oh my
I
god.
was actually surprised of how much I enjoyed it.
It's the best kind of B movie. I was so surprised how good it was.
It does harken back to like The Blob and stuff
short,
like that.
sweet, to the point, and does its job oh so well.
Yeah.
This might be surprising. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's only an honorable mentions. Rocket Man. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Rocco's Modern Life. Static Cling.
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it.
Well, shit. I should have put Invader Zim into the Forbes.
Oh, not only okay. I included every type of film. So I even included short films.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay.
Okay.
Ready or Not. I really liked this film.
Yeah.
Ready or Not. In the Tall Grass. Stephen King adaptation. It's a Netflix horror film. El Camino. Dolomite Is My Name.
Yeah.
This is one of those that's kind of like a short film, Guava Island, which was do you guys know what Guava Island is?
No.
It's I think it's exclusively on Amazon Prime. It's kind of like an hour, and it's a short story starring Donald Glover and Rihanna, where he plays all his music as well. Like it's a musical. It's Denny Maroon, a musician and a dock worker, is determined to pull off a music festival against the interests of the local factory owner. I really enjoyed it.
Why did nobody... Peter, I am insulted that you didn't mention this movie to me.
You should check it out. I really... It's good.
Okay.
Missing Link. It was okay. Doctor Sleep. Doctor Sleep's only hitting the honorable mentions, but I really do love that film. Shadow. This is a foreign film. It's a historical martial arts type film. Really good. Klaus. Come on now. Klaus. Sorry, Klaus. Anima. A one-reeler. So it's like 15 minutes. Directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. Short musical film. It's like 15 minutes. You can find it on Netflix. Check it out. The Wandering Earth, the biggest blockbuster film for China of the past year. It's literally about us because the sun's dying. The entire world builds massive rockets to push it to another solar system, and it's a giant Chinese disaster film. It's a lot of fun.
I heard about that movie. I didn't know. I wanted to see that movie. I forgot about that. But that was a big box office hit of last year.
You're pretty into disaster films, so I
love disaster films. I mean, I love all of Roland Emmerich's.
Oh
crap,
yeah, his complete crap is so much fun.
Yeah.
This barely counts as a film, like just barely. But I was like, you know what? I enjoyed it. For me, if it comes out on Letterboxd, if like it has its own thing, then I count it as a film.
Right.
This is a video that I recommended Kyle watch, and he got extremely insulted. Has Been Hotel. It's like an adult cartoon. It's basically like the pilot for an adult cartoon. It's really gross and out there, but I was like, hey, I like the fact that it was self-funded. It's these artists trying to put something together. It was cute. It was nice. Booksmart. I love Booksmart. We talked about this. The Irishman. Did not hit my top 10. But I really do love it.
I have no fucking idea what's in your top 10 now.
I can't let you.
I can't let you throw yourself away. Speaking of throwing yourself away, I Lost My Body. That was the next on the honorable mention. French animated film. It came out in it was nominated for Best Animated Feature. These next two I saw, thanks to our Disney overlords at Disney Plus. They're two animated shorts. So Smash and Grab and Pearl.
Huh.
Okay.
Cute. They're cute. I like the fact that they're releasing all their little animated shorts on there, because that's kind of what I've been watching. I'm surprised no one's mentioned this film, Knock Down the House.
Oh, yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now.
AOC represent, yeah.
Represent. Very
And also
uplifting.
Netflix film as well. Netflix representing all over the place. We should also mention Netflix. Best job of anybody else this year.
Netflix is fucking killing it. Next film is Climax by crazy as fuck director Gaspar Noé. It's basically a one shot of a troupe of dancers accidentally took acid and they lose their fucking mind. It's terrifying and I never want to watch it again. It was good though. The Art of Self-Defense. This is actually
I've heard about that one.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. I heard good things and I watched it. It's a dark comedy. So of course, come on now, that's right up my lane. And it's basically a big middle finger to toxic masculinity. Yeah, it's nice. I really want to give this one a shout out. Tigers Are Not Afraid, directed by Isa Lopez. It's a Mexican film / I'll just say right here. Come on now. It says it right here. A dark fairy tale about a gang of 5 children trying to survive the horrific violence of the cartels and the ghosts created every day by the drug war. It's really good. It's really good. I highly recommend. Horror Noir, A History of Black Horror. This is a documentary.
I heard about this one.
Yeah, it's really good. Even if you don't like horror, I think you'd be really fascinated and really interested, especially because it brings in a lot of the actors and a lot of the creatives all throughout the years that have been in horror to talk about this, and of course Jordan Peele's in there. They start from the very beginning. They start all the way back at the first Epic. It was about the Ku Klux Klan or whatever, and the way they portrayed black people. I forgot the name of it. It's
Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation, yeah. They start there and then all the way to modern times, hitting us and all that shit. It's really good. I suggest it. Wind was another Disney short. Saw it on Disney Plus. Really cute, really well. Haunt was a horror film. Dumb and cheesy, but I enjoyed it. One Cut of the Dead. This is a really... If you like twists, holy fuck, does this film have multiple
Wait.
hilarious twists within it. Yeah.
Did they subvert your expectations?
They were very subverted. But yeah, One Cut of the Dead, it's a foreign film. Just to describe it really quick, don't stop shooting. Things go badly for a hack director and a film crew shooting a low-budget zombie movie in an abandoned Second World War Japanese facility when they are attacked by real zombies. Watch it. Another one that didn't hit my top 10, The Two Popes. I really love it. I do. Didn't hit my top 10. Funny enough, for the one that created the one rule, it seems like I'm the only one that included this. Cats. Fuck it. It's in my honorable mentions. I had a blast watching it. Gabriel Iglesias' One Show Fits All. This was a stand-up comedy. It's technically a movie. I like Fluffy. I think he's funny and I enjoyed his stand-up. The Death of Dick Long. Dark comedy, a hell of a fucking twist. Hustlers. Come on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Hustlers, really good. Zombieland Double Tap. I really enjoyed it. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, also not mentioned by anyone. What the fuck?
Well, there's a lot of them I didn't mention because you were gonna mention them. Just to be clear. So if I say that one, just know that I have that in my list as well. That was also very good. Yeah.
Just real. The only real thing with this one is I love the fact that it is one of those biopics that attempts to do something different.
Yeah.
Not just the standard biopic. Okay.
Yeah.
A Hidden Life is about.
A little bit on A Beautiful in the Day of the Neighborhood. I got around to watching that about 3 weeks ago, and it was nice. I liked the movie. I liked the message that it was trying to portray. Unlike his performance in Saving Mr. Banks, where he absolutely like sunk into the role of Walt Disney, I found it a little bit distracting with Tom Hanks playing.
I
Mr.
never
Rogers.
saw him as Walt Disney. I saw him as Tom Hanks, but different strokes, different folks.
What about in this movie?
I actually think he did a better job morphing into him because I think his natural demeanor better fits Mr. Rogers than Walt Disney. A Hidden Life, it's about an Austrian, I think, who refused to fight for the Nazis in World War II. Honey Boy, this is really good. You guys should check it out. That's of course about what's his name? Shia
LaBeouf's life.
Yeah, 1917. Oh, did you see it was all in one shot? The Joker, baby. It's here for the memes. It's here for the memes.
Well, hold on. I gotta call you out. Wait, why is 1917 there?
19 because it was shot in one take.
And Joker's there for the memes.
It's there for the memes. Ad Astra, I watched it. I enjoyed it. It was pretty good. It's pretty good. Birds of Passage. This is a really good. Just to describe it real quick, a violent decade that saw the origins of drug trafficking in Colombia. It's told through the indigenous people that lived there and where it started. It's really good, and it's a different type of drug lord story and the way it's told. It's really, really good. Little Women, and Little Women. The women were indeed little, so A+. Okay, that's the honorables. Let's get
okay. No.
Let's get to the nitty-gritty. Okay. Number 10. The Last Black Man in San Francisco. Describe this film really quick, thanks to Letterboxd. Fight for your land, fight for your home. Jimmy Fails dreams of reclaiming the Victorian home his grandfather built in the heart of San Francisco. Joined on his quest by his best friend Mont, Jimmy searches for belonging in a rapidly changing city that seems to have left him behind. When I talk about how it was difficult to see like what I include, whenever it becomes too difficult, I just gotta go with like, okay, what hit me emotionally? What did I connect with? That's ultimately that's what films are for. So you just gotta have to go with that. And this is
and to be clear, I don't want to cut you off there, but that's exactly the same thing that David said in his show, and I think naturally I agree with that sentiment. Is what hits you emotionally is what you put in the top 10, usually speaking. Yeah,
you have to. It really and just looking at my notes, it's a dreamlike ode to a changing city. It's about a man who feels left behind by his own home, and apparently this is the film debut by Joe Talbot. Oh, and this is an A24 film. I mean, come on. But it's absolutely beautiful the way in which they capture the city, capture the little nuances of it, and the culture that lives there, and the way it's changing, and the way for a lot of people that used to be there, how they don't feel welcome anymore. They don't feel like it's their home.
They don't relate to it.
They don't relate to it, and I think that's such an interesting phenomenon to examine. And the sort of dreamlike way that this film does that, it is very realistic. It doesn't do anything crazy slick, but there's just a sort of a slight whimsy to it that I think really makes you understand the love that this person has for the city, the characters specifically, and you know how where they're at now that it's gone. It tackles the ideas of class and community, and I also think it has a lot to say about nostalgia. It's a really interesting film in that way. Like I said, an incredible directorial debut.
Something I want to add. There's an episode of Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown where he goes to Vietnam, Hanoi, and how that's where he found himself as like a world traveler kind of thing. And like that's where he got his start, and you know it's always been a home to him. It was massively different when he first started trekking there, and he said that you know he expresses his love of like the sights, the smells, specifically the smells. Like there's like this sweet like spice bouquet that like surrounds the city, but like there's also like the deep pungency of like inner city mess that like just intermingles. And how he said that, you know, how everything used to be mom and pop stores and everything like that. But now because of like tourism and everything like that, and how it's become like a huge tourism trap thing, even to where Obama did an outreach thing right there. And they did an interview with him while they were eating noodles. And he said that Hanoi has now become like Times Square. It's become highly Americanized with like a Circle K and stuff like that. And he says like, you know, there's parts of the city where I don't recognize it anymore from when I first arrived here. And I could completely see that.
Yeah. It's you know, when you talk about what we're dealing with in America, you know, gentrification, you know, whether it's good or bad, lean maybe on the bad side.
And I don't want to drag this out too much, but if I wanted to add something, because that's very important. You know, I spent a good year in Washington D.C. If I haven't mentioned that before, but that
you know what? I don't think you have. Yeah.
Watch out, we got a badass over here.
Well, that's not what I meant. Is that look, because I was kind of playing a reporter there, and I had the privilege of covering stories about this issue, and it's plaguing that city as well. A lot of, especially African Americans, are being pushed out of their homes because they're building luxurious condominiums. It's like, it's a story of not just any particular city. It's a story in America. It's happening every single day, and just like everything else, nothing is being done about it.
Yeah. And the idea of what to do about it at a personal level, you don't know. It had a wonderful score. The YouTuber Houston Productions 1 had a great way of describing it as an urban fantasy. It really was a film where at first I saw it, I was like, wow, that was a good film, but it had staying power. And you know, and it left me in a sort of melancholic state, you know, and those are the films that really usually stick with me, and I find myself thinking about them later on. So yeah, this is number 10, Last Black Man in San Francisco. Really good. If you guys haven't checked it out, check it out.
Impact is a hell of a drug.
Yeah. This one I probably won't talk that much about because we've already talked about it quite a bit. Jojo Rabbit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Number 9. Jojo Rabbit. This is a film I thought I would like, but I didn't know. Like, I thought it was like, yeah, it's good, but
To what degree?
Yeah, it was surprisingly emotional for me when I watched it. I thought it was very funny. I think it was a good, interesting examination of hate and how it's influenced onto us and how it can be, you know, washed away.
Yeah.
Unfortunately topical, but yeah, topical nonetheless. Everyone was great. It was very funny. Most visually interesting of Watiti's films from the ones I've seen. I think there's only one film of his I haven't seen, which was his first film. So,
I think it's fascinating with Jojo Rabbit because like the way it I mean, we talked about it in, ad nauseum about like how it discusses hate, but I like how it comes like hate is described as this like childish,
It's stupid
emotion.
yeah. It's more of a guttural emotion rather than a well thought out anything, really. So yeah, I won't talk too much about it. That's about all I'll say. But number 9 is in fact Jojo Rabbit. Number 8, Marriage Story.
Holy crap! Okay.
Yeah, Marriage Story. I really liked this film. I actually really did. I think it had incredible lead performances. It was as much as you could an unbiased look at love that wasn't meant to be. And, it can be heartbreaking, it can be uplifting, it can tear you in every which way. But it's those kinds of stories that are most interesting to watch and most interesting to examine. And, this is what that film was. It had a great Toy Story score.
God.
Which surprisingly fit well with the film. It gave it almost a storybook,
this kind of whimsical,
storybook quality to a very heavy situation.
Yeah.
And it hooked me from the very beginning. I love these kinds of films. The way I've said this before when we discussed the film, the way it started, the way it just starts with them saying the reasons why they love each other. And like within a small 5-minute period, you fall in love with this couple, and then it quickly drags you out of it as you realize the reason why they're writing this is because they're getting divorced, right? And it's like, boom, It's like perfect way to set you off on this journey. And the beautifully...
It's a hell of a pivot, too.
Yeah. And the beautifully melancholic ending of... They just basically reach an amicable end eventually. And there may be a part of them that, still has love for each other, but they're no longer together, and that's okay. Yeah, it's sweet, and it's well done. And, give Laura Dern an Oscar. Oh, they did. Fantastic.
A thing I must add.
Yes.
To that, the Marriage Story is I liked it. I really liked it. As somebody, I know you and Alexis, you haven't had the misfortune of having two members of your family be torn apart like this, and that was my mom and dad, and I've seen the bitter aftermath of that event until I was 8.
Yeah, that's most of your young life. Yeah,
I've seen the bitter, like just the arguing. Even though that they're separate, I mean, the war doesn't just stop there. At the threshold of we signed the document. Okay, it's done. With the fighting, the war is over. So the character that I sympathize with was not ScarJo or Adam Driver. It was the kid, which apparently you fucking despise.
Yeah, that kid was a shit.
Yeah, but I was having a hard time grasping this kind of a civility kind of thing. It could be just the cynical person of me, but yeah.
No, I mean, obviously, like, what they went through isn't going to be the same for everyone. This was a very Hollywood look at it. I mean, they were both very rich, famous. Come on, yeah.
Also, I noticed this, for somebody who is, struggling financially, how the hell does Adam Driver own a Rolex?
But what does it matter? Wait a minute. No, what does it matter? It's like I had this discussion with David about these Oscar voters that were fixated on how wealthy these two people seemed. They're celebrities. And also,
that's my
what does
thing.
it matter? What does it matter to
I'm
the
not
overall
saying
consequence?
I'm the only one who included this film in their top 10 list, so chill.
It was number 11 on my list, so back up.
Sure. Okay. Oh no, that was Frozen too. My only point I'm saying is that I understand.
Excuse me for liking films of female empowerment, unlike you misogynistic, like Castro-loving.
Castro-loving. Oh, okay.
So, Alexis, what is your thoughts on Elizabeth Warren?
Yeah.
You were saying, Peter?
Okay. Though I was literally just responding to what Kyle had said, like why it was difficult for him personally to connect to their whole like very easy amicableness by the end. And it's like, well, yeah, it's probably easier for these people to come to an amicable end than it would be for most people. It doesn't hurt my enjoyment because I'm looking at this in the vacuum of a film and the story and these characters. But if you're someone who's, extrapolating from real life, obviously you might go like, well, come on now. So yeah, if anything, I'm just saying I'm not diminishing Kyle's point of view and his lived experience.
Also, watch out for Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson going forward. That's all I'm going to say.
Is that a threat? Like, what do you mean?
I mean, watch out for them to get even more acclaim for projects that they'll do as far as their acting is concerned. I think, to a big extent, all of us were big fans of their work, but this kind of elevated everyone's perspective on their acting abilities, even though they were kind of already high to begin with.
So yeah. I really
what threat? What the fuck?
That sounded very threatening. You're a Bernie bro. I don't know what to believe. Okay, I don't know which way it was
Master
going.
Jedi?
What are we going to do?
Okay,
yeah, Marriage
7.
Story was number 8. Number 7. This might be a bit controversial.
Parasite? No. The Lighthouse?
No.
Captain Marvel?
No. No. Invader Zim, Enter the Florpus.
Holy shit. Okay. All right.
Invader Zim, Enter the Florpus. I love animation. I believe animation is an often severely overlooked medium.
I can't believe I just had to write down Invader Zim.
Enter the Florpus. You give that film its due respect.
I'm happy. Okay.
I think it goes without saying my favorite animated film of the year. I think it deserves to be released in theaters. I think it was unbelievably funny, perfectly paced. It serves as a great series end and a standalone film. I've probably watched it easily the most times out of every top 10 film that I have here.
It is very rewatchable.
It's very rewatchable. There's so many little jokes, and they're all perfectly...
Peace is nice.
Peace is better than chicken rice. Like, it's that silly, absurdist, dumb humor, but told in such a smart way that I just love. It's such a good film. It's not like full like film length. I think it's only about an hour.
It's an hour and 10 minutes.
But it uses credits. But it uses every second to its advantage. I really loved it. I think it was an awesome film. The animation was fantastic. It was actually some really fantastic animation. And what I really love with the series creator, what's his name? Shoot. Is he even come out here? Oh yeah, Jahonen Vasquez. Everything he makes, he goes 110%. Like he made this film like he was making like a giant feature length film, and I think it shows.
And this behind the scenes stuff, this movie was in development hell for a while.
Yeah, it was supposed to have come out like fucking 10 years ago or some shit.
Yeah, but I'm glad, and also like the cast, they sound the same. Like,
yeah, oh yeah, they're voice actors. Yeah,
Richard Horvitz kills it and nails it. Like my favorite like shot, it was the teaser, and this sold me on the movie of him in the toilet. Just
where he's just laughing
in the toilet.
It is I him. No, it's as dark humor as you can get for a kids show, over the top, funny and ridiculous. It's great.
Even Dim being grotesquely obese.
Yeah,
at the beginning, just obsessed.
Like literally, his whole plan to thwart him since the show went off the air was to just wait patiently in his toilet as he got like as he like just sat on his chair and went obese looking for Zim, and then just got all lethargic, and then that's the way he could beat him now because he's incapable. He became a chair. Like, oh my god, it's yeah. So yeah, that was my number 7.
It's so petty. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, it's hilarious. Number 6. This is also gonna make Alexis very happy. Uncut Gems. That's right. You motherfuckers robbed Adam Sandler.
Oh,
How
please. No.
fucking dare you?
No.
This man was robbed. Not only should he have been nominated, he should have won.
You are a crazy motherfucker.
Nothing
what
I
are you
am
talking
saying
about?
is
What are
controversial
you talking about?
at
You
all.
should have won. He had
He
no
should have
business being
won.
talked about. What are you talking about? Crazy.
He should. Nothing I'm saying is controversial.
No,
He was fucking
what I am saying,
robbed.
What I am saying is controversial, and I
Yes.
will own that mantle because I don't understand how everyone's lost their minds. How somebody who has the most annoying voice in the world is at a level 10, screeching in your ears. You can listen to that and actually feel sympathy for it. No.
This is how I win. Okay. This is how I win.
That being said, it's a good movie. But no. It was
Adam Sandler was robbed.
I would rather listen to nails on a chalkboard. Nails on a chalkboard.
Okay,
Oh
anyway,
my
Adam
God.
Sandler was robbed. The tension was amazing. Mwah.
It was.
It was an extremely tense film.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Throughout it was a fantastic look at a gambler as the house of cards he built just came crashing down one after the other. You know, just the way this character just puts himself in the worst, dumbest fucking situations, and the ways in which he digs himself deeper and deeper and deeper in an attempt to get out. And all the while the tension ramps the entire film. It's so good. It's so entertaining.
And when he gets shots in the face, it's the best moment of the film because then I can go to sleep.
Spoilers, you bitch.
Who gives a shit?
Oh my god.
I don't.
Yeah.
Good
I
film,
mean,
though.
it's
Good film.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay if you know, I'm used to you having,
Uncut Gems.
bad
Wow.
film takes.
That was, I think, a dishonorable mention. If I never got to that.
Softy Brothers are great and deserve infinitely more recognition.
Then
They
the
were on
Duffer
the
Brothers.
up and
I'm
up.
sure. Yeah, sure.
Softy Brothers. Yeah.
Did you see what Adam Sandler said? He said, if I don't win an Oscar, I'm going to make the worst movie you're ever going to see.
Yeah, which, I mean, he's already done that, so go ahead.
Which pissed off the Oscar voters. Oh, what snowflakes. Yeah, I really hope these directors get more recognition because they're great. It's such a well-made, slick film. I think it's really smooth in the way it just, the camera moves from shot to scenario while keeping the tension. I think this was a fantastic film. I really think it's entertaining. Yeah, Adam Sandler, you were robbed. I really loved this film. That was my number 6. Uncut
This movie
Gems.
makes me love Joker.
I don't understand this level of animosity towards a great film.
We need to do a review on this movie at some point. A full-length review. That's what we got to do.
Well, you know what? We'll do an audio commentary.
Joker, baby.
We'll do an audio commentary.
Yeah.
Okay, number 5, The Farewell.
Oh, yes. Now that's a film.
Okay. It's a tragic and loving look at a woman caught between two worlds during a difficult place in her life.
One family.
Fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck off. All right, number 4.
Oh, shit.
We have gotten to that point of the podcast. Alexis.
Sorry, go ahead.
Alexis, stop. Okay, continue.
Every fucking time. You'll just say the stupidest thing and you think it's the funniest joke that's ever been told in the history of mankind.
My cheekbones hurt. Oh my god.
The Farewell. An incredibly American story, I have to say. Awkwafina was fantastic, and so was Nai. I would say the actress's name, but I will butcher it, and I will not disrespect Nai that way.
Zhao Zhuzhen.
Zhao Zhuzhen. All right, I'm going with your. You better.
I've
not be letting
heard
me
many
down.
people pronounce that name.
Okay,
that's how
Zhao
you
Zhuzhen.
pronounce-
All right,
yes.
yes, she was great. She was wonderful.
She was
Awkwafina-
robbed of a Best Supporting Actor Oscar, not nomination, Oscar. That was, oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, her along with Adam Sandler.
Oh well, Awkwafina maybe.
No,
She was
Awkwafina
really
gave a fantastic performance.
Yeah.
Like she really did show her range.
Because she's known
Lulu-
for comedy, and this is not
Yeah,
necessarily comedic, although it is funny.
Comedians, you really have to. One, you have a lot of suppressed like anger and depression and hurt feelings because to be a comedian is to I think you deal with more rejection as a comedian than you do with simply being an actor and an actress. But also to be a comedian, you're basically acting up there. You're putting on a show, so you develop range. So yeah, she was great. Like another comedian, Adam Sandler. Lulu Wang directed this film with a lot of skill and a lot of heart.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to whatever else she does next.
Real quick though, I think it's actually pronounced Lulu Wang.
Oh, I saw an A.
It is an A, but I think they pronounced
It's
it
pronounced Wong.
Yeah.
But when I see Wong, it's with an O.
Yeah, me too. It could be either or. We're trying our best. We're not Chinese. I'm sorry. Like we're.
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah.
Look Chinese. They sound Chinese.
I'm sorry. No, don't do this right now. We're almost at the end of it. Don't do that.
But it's an American invention.
You don't even like that movie in your
Hollow, full of lies. All right, you're number 4.
I didn't even finish talking about number 5
Oh shit!
until
okay,
I was
sorry.
extremely rudely interrupted.
I'm
As I
sorry.
was saying, Lulu Wang directed with a lot of skill and heart. I loved the clash of cultures, loved the extended cast / family that was portrayed. You could tell it was a very personal and beautiful film, and it really connected with me on an emotional and personal level. I don't know if we've probably talked about this, but being Mexican American, there is some of that.
Yeah.
Similarities.
To two different cultures. One wants to build a wall to get rid of you, and the other says you're not good enough, sometimes to be considered one.
Yeah, it's an interesting commentary on the whole culture clash, especially because it's even more extreme with China, because we're talking about the whole Western world, which is very alien to their side of the world.
Yeah, you're on opposite sides of the world, so obviously, you know, it's going to be very different. But yeah, it was surprisingly funny. Just overall, wonderful film.
Another passion project for a great director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because it was inspired by her own grandmother, as you said.
I think that one was A24 as well.
Yes, yeah. You currently have three A24 films.
Three A24 films.
Yeah,
and 2 Netflix.
2 Netflix.
Invader Zim and A Marriage Story.
And 1 Searchlight, formerly known as Fox Searchlight.
1 Fox Searchlight.
Peace. Yeah.
Yeah, so there we go. Okay. Number 4. There has been a murder in Savannah.
Oh, I knew this one. This one is amazing because I think, if I'm not mistaken, looking at all the films, even including Mr. Moreno, as I predicted, Knives Out, when you aggregate all the lists together now, that would be the number 1 film in comment as high as it hit. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And I have this.
You're like famous.
Yes, that is a line in the film.
I read a tweet about an article about you.
I mean, that scene really called me out. My first note, literally in all fucking caps. Rian Johnson has never made a less than great film. Yeah. Fucking, I'm spitting facts here. Okay,
you're spitting fire.
Sure. I think he's made like 5 films at this point.
We're talking about Brick, Looper, Last Jedi, Knives Out, and what was the other one?
Fuck. It was after Brick. The Brothers Bloom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's 5, right?
Yeah.
All of them really good. Like he's hitting a perfect batting average. The ensemble cast is perfection. Wonderful mystery and awesome twist. It's an airtight script. Like we've all talked about this, but it's an air fucking tight script. And again, it's so chef's kiss. It's beautiful. The fact that, and yes, this is me being fucking salty and petty. Fuck off. That after people bitched and moaned for about a year about the writing in The Last Jedi, this man wrote the most airtight script I've seen all year, and then got nominated for an Oscar for that script. It is chef's kiss.
I mean, it also was.
I want Daniel Craig to tell me I'm a good nurse.
It's also paired beautifully with the fact that the succeeding film in the Star Wars franchise completely fell apart, making Rian Johnson look better.
It makes
all
them
the better.
Yeah, because then a lot of people look back and are like, oh.
It was honestly the best case scenario for Rian Johnson, even though he was never rooting for a Star Wars movie just to fail. I mean, he would never say that on record, but like as far as a reputation is concerned and his standing, all of that was the perfect storm for his comeback.
Thank you, Rian Johnson.
Yeah.
As the tweeters like to say.
Awesome bit of storytelling, really. I mean, it's classic cinema to its bare bones, you know, and I adore it for that.
It's classic genre filmmaking with a twist, which is his MO.
This is freaky. I'm just looking at the numbers of the 4 of us. So Kyle has that number 1 in his list. I have it at number 2 in my list. David has it at number 3 in his list, and Peter has it at number 4 in his list.
Damn. Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So the film is getting worse with time. Yeah, it's endlessly fun. It's so funny. I mean, we saw this film together.
Yeah.
I felt bad because at one point I knew I was laughing really loud.
But that was okay because everybody else was laughing hard.
Everyone else was laughing loud too. Like the will reading scene. Oh my god, is so perfect because, you know, there's so many moving plates. You have all these wonderful actors, some of them scripted, but some of them ad-libbing. And I've watched the film twice. I guarantee you when I watch it again eventually, it's so funny. Like the ad-libbing, I will not eat one iota of shit. Like, oh my God. So funny, so good. And like you said,
cookies?
You want some cookies? It's so good. It's so good. It's just pure entertainment. Entertainment.
Also to have like Daniel Craig say the word donut hole.
You and fucking Daniel Craig and the donuts. Oh my God. I'm
so
moving
barbaric.
on. I'm moving on. My last point, this guy should probably make a Star War. Number tres. The Lighthouse. Another one of
Shocker.
Alexis Soto's favorite films of the
year.
year.
Lighthouse is a great film. I don't know why people think that I don't like it. I mean, Uncut Gems is one that gets me upset, but this movie is endlessly interesting to talk about, but not as, I think, interesting to revisit on an actual watch. But okay, we'll just have our disagreement. It's fine. It's a great film. How about that?
I went back.
Yeah.
I went back to watch it.
I think I saw it twice at this point.
You bought the movie almost immediately. Of course you loved it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, obviously. That
brings us to, 4 A24 movies in your top 10?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I like to lovingly call The Lighthouse Water The Shining. Because I feel like it's very similar to that film.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it's very in vain. The way it's paced, the way it's a descent into madness that isn't necessarily clear. It's a lot more metaphorical in a lot of ways.
It's metaphorical.
It's metaphorical.
It's a metaphor. Taste your face. I'm sorry. I'm tired.
Let's go. Alexis is losing his mind.
You're the one that's doing it, you dumb asshole.
I'm not doing anything.
Okay. Fuck. Okay. God damn it. Every time I move it, it moves all the way back up. Robert Pattinson and William Dafoe deserved nominations. They were great. Oh my. William Dafoe's accent in this film kills me. It's so great. It's so great. You know, help me to recollect. How long have we been on this rock? Like, it's the most... Oh, it's pitch perfect with
so
his mustache and his limp.
Outlandish.
Oh, it's great. It's so great. I think it might be the most atmospheric and best shot film on my entire list.
Yeah.
Like, it's that well put together. It's that good. I really
also,
do.
the unnerving horn is also really...
I love the horn.
This should have been, I feel, even more so than Ford v Ferrari. This was, I think, a front runner. At least it should have been for sound design. That added so much to the film.
Oh my God. Yeah. The sound of the waves, the horn. There were so many little things within the film that really added so much to it. I really do think Robert Eggers is a master filmmaker. Like, he really does masterful work.
Also, it harkened back to to classic cinema, you know? And it felt like an old movie, but it had like modern day storytelling sensibilities.
I do have a question,
I
though.
enjoyed that.
I have a question because I didn't sit in with your apparently now infamous and world-renowned commentary of On Stranger Tides and your obsession with mermaids. What did this movie do about the mermaids that answered those questions?
Wait, what do you mean answered those questions?
As somebody who listened to the thing, because I do in fact listen, you said that it did with mermaids what Stranger Tides didn't.
Did I say that?
Yeah.
I think I said they did it better.
That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, for one, we know where merbabies come from, thanks to this film.
Oh yeah, we get to see what a mermaid's vagina looks like.
I mean, I wasn't gonna be that out and about it, but yeah, we do. I think the mermaid is like really in this film very mystical and very like scary as alluring as scary as it is alluring. Yeah.
And Robert Pattinson Copsophiel.
Yeah. Oh, and then like her screech, like harpy screech, like yeah. It's very, it's almost perfectly reminiscent of how mermaids were believed to be during those times. And actually, you know, talking about the vagina, one of the reasons why or the beliefs at least of how the whole mermaid myth got started, I don't know, the beluga whale, I can't remember what type of whale it was, but like
I heard this.
yeah, like it from the fin onward, like that, you know, private part region looks very similar to the bottom part of a mermaid. The nether regions to down to the tail, and like it's believed that quick glimpses of that you know, back in those times started the myths of the mermaid. So yeah. They did mermaids right. It's a Greek tragedy at sea. I don't understand what I saw,
right?
but I loved seeing it. Yeah, oh, so much Prometheus in this. You know, this is, to me, it's a powerhouse filmmaking. I loved it.
I can't wait to see his Viking epic that he's making next.
Yeah, oh my god. Oh, I cannot wait. That's going to be incredible.
And Defoe is also going to star in that one as well.
Defoe is a badass Viking. He better be a Viking. Oh my god. Okay, number 2, Parasite.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I only have one note for Parasite because I had assumed that we would have talked Parasite to death by now. And it's just 4 Oscars, motherfuckers. That's my only real note. I honestly, God, I don't even feel like getting into why I love Parasite. Like, we have reviews. Like, I feel like we've talked about it on end.
I said it a lot already earlier, I think.
Yeah. But just like, I obviously love this film. Mm-hmm. It's Bong Joon-ho's best film. Bong Joon-ho is a fantastic director.
Which is saying something. Yeah,
he's such a good director.
I need to watch Snowpiercer.
Ooh, man. Yeah.
You do.
Well, you mean you hate Chris Evans, so I don't know how much you'd like it. I'm kidding.
Anymore.
I'm kidding. Oh.
Not anymore. Believe me, he is not Captain America in that film.
No, he's not.
But
then again, he wasn't Captain America in Knives Out, and Kyle never talks about Chris Evans in Knives Out.
I know. He always goes back to his fucking 007 when he talks about that film.
Well, I would go into...
No.
Okay.
Say your piece, right. Kyle. What is it?
All right. I would dive into Chris Evans' character, but
what the fuck was that?
Unless it's a spoiler. I have no idea what that was.
What the fuck was that? Is it that late? Oh my god!
An ape?
It's Black Panther. Remember?
What?
Remember when they would do that thing where it's like ooh?
Oh yeah. When okay. All right. It's the thing.
That's the thing. Anyway, Parasite is utterly fantastic. It deserved every Oscar it got and more. It was almost the best film of the year for me. Number 1, Toy Story 4. No, I'm kidding. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Let me just go ahead and read the synopsis real quick. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I think it's a French film. Yeah. Oui, oui. Don't regret, remember. On an isolated island in Brittany at the end of the 18th century, a female painter is obliged to paint a wedding portrait of a young woman. Yeah, when it at the end of the day, when making this list, you have to go with your just guttural emotional reactions. Nothing affected me more emotionally this year like this film. If I were to sell it to you guys, it's the lesbian version of Call Me by Your Name. In a real quick couple word synopsis, but I think it's also a lot more than that. It really is a quiet, what I wrote here, a quiet journey through love that can never be. The film really sneaks up on you, in the way it's very soft. It's a very quiet film, and it sneaks up, and it's in the way that it emotionally pulls you into these two people's relationship, and the way that you feel for these main characters. Like the saying goes, like falling in love, it's slowly then all at once. That's the way I felt with this film, where it's like I had watched it because everyone's like, oh, it's a really good film. It was like, okay, I'll add it to my 2019 list and I'll just go ahead and watch it. And I watched it, and again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I get what this film is and what it's trying to do, but even then, it just I didn't even realize when it was happening. Just slowly, and then all at once, I fell in love with this film, and just the pure atmosphere, the emotion that drives both these characters together and ultimately keeps them apart is integral to everything that goes on within this film, and you feel every bit of it. You really do, and you don't realize at first that you do, but you really do. It's mesmerizing. The score as well is very mesmerizing. The performances are mesmerizing, and if that wasn't enough, the very end of the film, there's like a I don't know, 3 to 4 minute just still shot as it pulls in on the reaction of a character, and it really sealed the deal for me for what this film was. To me, when I think about my favorite films or the best films, they're the ones that send me on an emotional journey unlike I'm used to, unlike I've ever felt before, or just in ways that it's very hard to do. And this film seemed to pull that off almost seamlessly. It's just such a good film. I want to give props to the actresses. I'm gonna butcher their names. I'm so sorry. Oh God. Naomi Merlant and Adele Haenel. I'm so sorry to you two out there, but yeah, I really butchered your name. And then the director, Celine Sciamma. It's a beautiful film. And again, when making the lists, I had to make the difficult decision. And when it came down to it, this was the film that affected me the most this year. It's the film that had the most staying power. If movies are an empathy machine, then, this film scored 100% on the empathy machine. So yeah, that was my number one. Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
So to recap, the number 10, The Last Black Man in San Francisco. Number 9, Jojo Rabbit. Number 8, Marriage Story. Number 7, Invader Zim. Enter the Florpus. I cannot believe I just said that live. Number 6, Uncut Gems. Number 5, The Farewell. Number 4, Knives Out. Number 3, The Lighthouse. Number 2, Parasite. And number 1, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, along with 55 honorable mentions. That is Peter Martinez's top 10 list. And that is cap on the top 10 show of 2019. As I speak right now on the show, we're clocking in at 3 hours and 42 minutes. I think
we'll edit it down.
I think it's fair to say we're eager to wrap it up. It's probably our longest show. But one thing before we go, I think we would all agree, what a tremendous year in film. I think all of our lists, we would fight for them in these movies to the death, as much as we care about movies. And if there is one film, we didn't dwell on this, there's no need to, but if there's one film that I would say was the disappointment of the year, it is without question Star Wars. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah.
of the year 2019, the most disappointing movie.
Yeah, I would say so.
Star Wars? Star Wars came out last year?
Right. So, Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker wins our collective unanimous dishonorable mention.
By the way, guys, did I mention I love cats?
Oh, I think Cats can. That is an honorable mention. I think Cats is the experience of the year. How about that?
Our favorite movie going experience collectively together.
It might be.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it is.
Yeah, it
And
probably
we all
is.
say, oh,
Yeah.
I thought I'd never.
Even with the shit crowd.
I know, right?
We need
They're
to see
so
it with the
boring.
most rowdiest crowd possible.
I
we
want
need to get drunk.
I want to watch it with some theater kids. Like, come on, yeah.
Yeah. Any last words before we go to a close on anything that was mentioned here?
Let's vote who had the best list.
We're about to hit hour 4.
I'm kidding. I'm good.
Kyle,
Good night, 2019.
it's over.
Well, later.
Oh, well, but before
It's
we
what
go,
it is.
Before we go, yeah, it's what it is. We should probably mention that we're also going to do a top 10 of the decade.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Soon. Very, very soon.
Yeah. It'll, again, this caps off 2019, but that will definitely cap off an entire decade of phone.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be fun as well when we get to it. But speaking for all of us, thank you all for listening to this extremely long, maybe at times bloated, certainly on my part, podcast. But if anything, this shows you how moved we were by movies and why it is that we talk about them in the first place. Oh my God, do they keep us going in ways we never would expect. So without any further ado, thank you for listening. Stay under the spotlight every single Sunday, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And until next time, bye-bye.